Welcome back to Splice Splatter, the film podcast presented by the Jean Cocteau Cinema in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where classic horror
It's modern gore.
And I finally pulled up in my notes, I told you I had a subtitle for this episode. It is my big, sad, gay horror special.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's your big,
sad, gay horror special.
Siena's birthday episode.
My birthday episode, which is also always our Pride episode, because I was born the day after Pride. So close to having the gayest possible birthday, off by 8 hours. But yeah, we've got the saddest, gayest horror films we will ever cover on this podcast, and I am so sorry. I'm so excited.
Thank you. I needed the apologies.
You're welcome.
I've been shaming you for what we've had these picks for now like 2 weeks. Yeah.
Because I've been very excited for it for so many reasons. We'll get into it.
Yep.
Al's, I think, been dreading it.
Just because I knew the tones.
Yeah.
I saw the TV Glow not that long ago. And then Donnie Darko is one of those ones which we'll get into. And I actually feel better writing my notes about it.
Oh, interesting.
But boy, heavy, long.
Yep.
Dreary.
Ending on that montage to Mad World is one of the saddest moments in cinema history.
Yeah. I want to put out a spoiler because I feel like if you haven't seen
Either
Donnie Darko,
movies, but
specifically I saw the TV Glow.
Yeah, I'm
about to say a really big spoiler.
Yeah.
So if you haven't watched,
you better. You goddamn better.
Here's the thing. Warren hasn't seen it. I'm sorry. It's the journey. It is not the destination.
Yeah.
So I would say both these films are the journey, not the destination.
We're also.
Well, I feel bad if I'm going to spoil it.
We have to. We're also in my segment going to talk a lot about different versions of the ending. Okay. So it's essential.
Fuck you,
yeah,
Warren.
I'm so sorry,
With
Warren.
Peace
we
and love,
can't avoid it.
I think this is spoiler if you haven't.
Yeah.
Get the hell
Still
away.
watch it. Still worth watching if you have it spoiled. But
it's our
go see.
First film where both of the protagonists do not make it.
Yeah.
In wild ways too, and in a and I was just I thought about it when I was going to the bathroom downstairs just a minute ago. I was like, oh my god, this is the first time that
it's
that's how sad this is. They don't make it through.
The anti-final girl in both of these movies.
The dead boy.
Dead
person. Dead.
The dead.
The dead.
The dead. Welcome to my big sad gay dead special.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So
yep. That's what we got. It's gonna be a wild ride. I don't know.
You're so much better about this. I knew talking with you, but I was dreading because
I will say I did a 180 on myself where I've been so excited for this pairing for the last 3 weeks. And then yesterday I had a breakdown. I was I don't know if I can do it.
You have to be in a mental state because
Yep. So if that makes you feel any better, my partner had to give me a pep talk into this
for sure.
to be able to gird myself for the conversation. But not because I chose these two films because these are, as we're going to get into, two of the most important movies in my life. And I saw the TV Glow in February of this year, but as we're going to get into, I now have a very personal connection to it, which I will reveal on this episode. Finally got the okay to.
So excited.
And
that's the most exciting part, I would say.
That's And Donnie Darko, as I put it to my partner after we watched both of them, Donnie Darko was my Pink Opaque growing up.
Really?
That's the best way I could put it. And
really?
Yeah.
I love
so this movie, for all of its numerous faults, and I will be the first to criticize, Gretchen Ross is so underwritten, and Jenna Malone gives such a gorgeous performance. There are a lot of things about the movie that are not perfect, but it is imprinted onto my goddamn soul.
I think I end on a quote from the director that will make anyone that feels that way or feels the way that I'll get into, I think feel better. I really love Richard Kelly. So,
I'm excited to hear more because I actually, despite it being my Pink Opaque, I have kept myself from finding out a lot about the making of Donnie Darko. So there's actually, I'm probably going to know zero of what you tell me.
Gosh, I hope it's robust.
I'm so excited.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
There was a lot. So I pared it down.
How many pages do you have?
I have 9, so I feel like I'm par.
Oh.
I think I could have really kept going. There's just numerous sources for this film, for reasons.
Yeah.
For obvious reasons, but
have 14.
Oh my gosh. I expected this.
There are no pictures in there. It's just text.
I expected.
And there's like so much stuff that is just stored in my brain that I didn't even write down, because immediately after watching I Saw the TV Glow, I went and listened to, you know, obviously I'm a podcast person, so I went and listened to every single podcast that Jane Schoenbrun has ever been on. And so there's a lot of stuff that like I don't have citations for, so I didn't write down, because I'm just like, I know I heard Jane say this at some point. That's just like stored in my noggin. But we're gonna see how much of that comes out. Spilling out of my mouth.
I kept mine short, knowing you would have a lot to say, potentially about both.
Yeah.
So I didn't know your how much you knew about Donnie Darko.
Not a lot of behind the scenes stuff for Donnie Darko. A lot of personal feelings about Donnie Darko, but
I'm excited to hear. So
I don't know. Do we dive in?
Yeah, do we dive? Do you have a tid or anything?
I have so many tids.
Oh gosh,
I have an abundance of tids. Oh, good. I also forgot to turn airplane mode on. Let me do that so I don't get distracted in the middle of the episode. So I would like to start us off with a tweet from Jane Schoenbrun, who is on the site that I will never call X, as the handle Sapphic Spielberg. We love them.
That's amazing.
And they retweeted somebody saying, had a dream last night that Jane Schoenbrun did a Donnie Darko Legacy sequel. And Jane Schoenbrun tweeted back, I mean, I kind of did.
Yeah.
So
funny.
That's the tone that we'll take going into this conversation. They're very, very explicitly in dialogue.
It was a really interesting pair.
Which order did you watch them in?
Donnie first, and then I saw the TV Glow yesterday, actually.
I actually watched Donnie first, too. I felt like, because I'd seen TV Glow so recently, I revisited Donnie Darko like a month ago, because I was so excited to cover the podcast.
Yeah, you did watch it earlier.
Yeah, but I like felt like I needed to do that one first, because it is so... It's something that Jane references in their quotes so often. Cool. So yeah. We'll talk more about why and where. But.
Yeah, because I mean, not to get too into it, but before we get into yours, I saw the TV Glow in October. Oh. So it was only a couple months before you. Because I remember coming in and being like, you need to see this.
Yeah, I remember you telling me.
And I knew nothing. It was just on a list.
So cool.
I was following like an October prompt. And so it was just like on there. Knew zero. Just knew the poster.
Yeah, which is incredible.
And so I didn't know what to expect, but like by the end of it, I told you, I was like, this is like, this is a big gay metaphor. Like there's, because
my big gay metaphor
special. I didn't know what to expect. So it was very much like, I kind of love going into that too, because you're just in it. You can't anticipate. You can't, it was just like truly blind. So, but I loved it. And rewatching it, even from October, so fresh in my brain. So it's one of those movies that like, I was like shaming you because I'm like, I've already watched this and it's really imprinted in my brain already. But yeah, it was interesting to see, but watching back and kind of seeing those things.
Yeah.
Donnie Darko, when was the first time you saw?
Oh God!
Or like, do you even remember? Or it's just in your DNA at this point.
Well,
yes and yes.
I have like a lot of high school memories of like sobbing alone in the dark to the Donnie Darko soundtrack. So I know it was like real early.
One of the best movie soundtracks I think of all time.
Of all time, yeah. That's why it's a Punk Rock Wednesday pick for.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, and it actually, if you're listening to this the day it comes out, it is this coming Wednesday, the 26th. I want to say 25th, 26th. I think because we're playing it Wednesday and Thursday. Yeah. So you can go see it on the big screen.
It's true.
But it. I think I probably was around 13 when I saw it, which was when I was a sophomore in high school. So it's like around the age that, not the age, but like the point in high school that the characters are, which is like, it's very much, I think, a movie that you have to access as a teenager in order to have those kinds of feelings for it, because it is so much a movie about the way being a teenager feels.
Yeah. I think that's where I don't have the connection to it, because I was interested to see my reaction. I don't dislike the movie. I'm going to put that out there. Do not dislike it. I think there's so many things. I don't have the connection to it because it's the way it's shot so fucking cool. They do so many cool stylistic things. Everyone's performance, I think, is fucking 10 out of 10.
Fantastic.
Across the board. Everyone's perfect in it.
Hot take, except for Drew Barrymore.
Well, we'll get into a reason why probably there too.
Really? Oh, I'm so
reasons,
excited.
probably.
I know that her company produced the film.
Flower Films.
Flower Films?
Yeah. So that's, I think, a big reason.
Fair.
We'll add a tiny more sprinkling.
Fantastic.
But I think that's the big reason. But I don't think I accessed it at the right point, like you were saying. So rewatching it, it almost is frustrating for me.
Yeah.
Because everything about me, I'm like, this should be a film that like cuts deep and like is why I am, like it should be a piece of me.
But if you don't access it with those teenage hormones,
I was late 20s.
Yeah, it's too late.
Even.
It's too late.
So I get kind of like, I think when I watch it, I get frustrated at myself.
Is it like cringy for you now?
It's not cringy.
Oh, interesting.
Again, I almost, in a way that other films, I have like no emotion about it. I look at it and I'm like, it's beautifully shot. I love everything they did. The making of and the reasons, I'm like, I love everyone that worked on this project. Like everything about it, I love.
It just
I don't have the emotional connection to it, and it doesn't even make me feel anything. And I get really, it's like in The Holiday when Cameron Diaz can't cry, and I'm just like, I should be able to cry.
Oh
I should be able to do that.
So funny because like when I say like Donnie Darko was my Pink Opaque, like I was a teenager who like would not cry. Except like watching Donnie Darko, like when I needed to cry, and this is something Jane Schoenbrun talks a lot about in interviews, is like using film to access those emotions that you can't. And this was that film for me. It was like
I'm
I
jealous.
Can feel things
I gotta say I'm
Donnie
jealous.
Darko. Well, I'm like I can only imagine like if you don't have it that young, it's just not gonna. Yeah. It's not gonna hit.
I know,
but it's not gonna hit.
I tap into those. So I don't have anything bad to say about this movie, but again, I do have some quotes from the writer-director, that make me feel a little bit better.
Oh, love that.
So
cool.
I really appreciate him as a creative.
Love.
So for anyone else that is like me that unfortunately did not watch it at the right time, I'm here for you.
I'm sorry for you.
Two ends of the sides. Yeah, you should be sorry for us. Honestly, it's a bummer. I have a little tidbit going into this that I thought was kind of funny.
Love.
So at the wrap party for this, Seth Rogen and Jake Gyllenhaal admitted that they didn't really know what the film was about while they were making it. This is a very complicated movie. They were very young, very early in their careers, but they were just like, nah.
And like, God, and Gyllenhaal's performance is so good.
I think he got his character. I think, like, for me, there's so many things going on that I could see, like, a 19-year-old being like, I get my character, and I get his motive.
Donnie.
Yeah.
I get Smurfette.
Yeah. But I just thought that was a really funny little tidbit. We're going to jump in.
Yes.
Okay, taglines. There are many, one of which cracks me the fuck up, so I'm going to save it till the end. So we have, you might know all of these. Again, I'm not super versed in Donnie Darko.
I don't think I know any, but the first thing that I would guess, if I had to guess, is that there's going to be something about why are you wearing that stupid man suit?
So that's like the main one. Cool. I feel like everyone knows. We all also have life is one long insane trip. Some people just have better directions, which is true. We have
Thanks, Roberta Sparrow.
Roberta Sparrow. Who's that?
The Grandma Death.
Oh.
Yeah.
So many characters.
I'm too much of
Thank
a
you.
fanboy,
You're gonna
you
know
guys.
exactly who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We have You Can Never Go Too Far. What would you do if you knew the future?
Oh, that's terrible.
Yeah, bad.
Oh.
The other one is Be Afraid of the Dark. And my favorite, which is the worst.
I'm so excited.
Dark, Darker, Darko.
No!
I was like, who the fuck wrote that?
I need that on a t-shirt.
It kind of fucks.
I love
Imagine
that.
in like the font.
And it like fades as it goes down.
In the dark.
Yeah. Yes.
And each like thing, it gets like less glow in the dark.
Yep.
I'm sorry. Less.
We need it.
That kind of fucks. So that's my favorite.
Morgan Crypt merch idea.
Truly. Copyright? Who's she? Like I said, we have writer-director Richard Kelly, who I love. He directed, I kind of like looked up and was trying to see if I was familiar with anything. He only has done a few things.
He has a weird career.
He kind of just like
Kelly. Yeah.
he hasn't done anything since 2009. So he's just out there.
Richard. And wasn't he really young when he did this, too?
Yes, he was 25. On set, he was 25.
That, I think you kind of have to be to make a movie that is this accurate to the teenage experience. You have to be, like, not that far
from. Yeah.
Yep.
The only other thing I could find that, like, people might know is he had a film starring Sarah Michelle Gellar, Seann William Scott, and The Rock.
Oh my God.
Called Southland Tales, which a lot of the retrospective interviews that I read, like, I pulled a quote from, I think that was, like, in theaters at the time or coming out. So
there's a lot of talk of Southland Tales.
Yeah,
probably.
so that's where I got like a lot of the Donnie Darko, because obviously people would naturally, the interviewers would be like, we have to talk about this too.
Yeah.
Because this movie meant everything.
Yeah.
So, and then he did one, and actually speaking of Cameron Diaz, called The Box. So he did a couple things.
Not a great title.
Yeah. They look, I mean, good for him for getting the star power that he had.
Again, being able to create a movie like this off the bat at 25 is just
wild. Yeah. That lives in like cinema history.
Yeah.
So yeah, 25 when he was on set. And to that I'm very quote heavy again.
Love.
Maybe it was laziness. I don't know. So being young on set, he said, quote, when you're in your first week of principal photography as a first-time director at the age of 25, you got a lot of people looking over your shoulder, wondering whether you've got the goods, whether you even deserve to be in the position. And you got a lot of people who are lifting equipment and busting their ass to help you make your day and get all the shots in time. So he was very aware of where he stood, which I love that, because I'm like, the more humble you are, you're able to,
the better
like,
you'll do.
Yeah, and give credit to your crew. So he goes on to talk about that a little bit more and kind of how he got his crew on his side.
Love.
He said, I always find that if you can start showing your crew footage as soon as possible, and particularly the stuff that's working, start showing the dailies because it builds morale, and if you're taking more risks, it's going to incentivize the crew to help you continue to take those risks. So I think he probably was, I think in the interview, again, I kind of like picked out pieces. But I think it was specifically, oh my God, I can't remember what scene it was, but it was some big scene that he was really nervous about. And he was like, how do I get everyone to believe in me? Because, he has older people being like, okay.
Yep.
Especially even the DP who, we'll talk about, he got on board with him immediately. But I love that he kind of had this internal dialogue. It was like, okay, I'm going to just show them this and then they'll believe me. And it worked. So again, I just love his self-awareness at 25.
Amazing.
To be running a crew, especially under Drew Barrymore's company. So that cinematographer is Stephen Poster. I'm not sure if you're familiar. He did Big Top Pee-wee.
Oh my God, amazing.
The Pee Wee Herman film, which I got to rewatch. 2017's Amityville: The Awakening, which I've not seen. Rocky V. And then he did a lot of music videos. So one of the ones he did was Like a Prayer from Madonna.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
So that's kind of the dude. He talks about how he kind of came a lot from music videos. So this film felt really cool for him to do. He actually went over to Richard Kelly's house in Venice that he was sharing with a bunch of other, I think, like crew and producers and stuff. And he talks about meeting Richard. He was like, quote, I noticed that Richard was really nervous, pacing back and forth. I told Richard that I wanted him to forget our ages, forget my experience. If I were hired, I would be there for him as the director of photography. He would be the director. And I told him I was very interested in working with him. And then he finally relaxed. So again, I love that he kind of came in and was like, it's fine. I'm here for you. I want the job.
This is so heartwarming. I love this.
Huge. Yeah. I gotta say, this crew makes it, again, my lack of feeling watching the film. I have a lot of feels from behind the scenes.
Love that.
Yeah. One big ask that Stephen Poster had, though, especially with Richard being a first-time director, he was like, we need to spend 3 to 4 days together just, like, talking stuff out. So he was like, I can't do that if you can't promise me that. Yeah. Richard's like, sure, of course. And I'm sure he was like, I need all the help that I can get.
I need more than 4 days. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. He's like, give me like
weeks.
A month.
Yeah.
So Stephen Poster said those 4 days were extremely important for them to have and said that it was, quote, tremendously creative time where they were able to kind of justify all these things that they wanted to do. I can only imagine what those conversations were like. And he says, quote, Stephen Poster says, quote, "When we came out of those 4 days, we knew what the movie was. We sailed through that production in a way that was so exciting and energizing." Again, thinking like this older guy that has this career with this kid, essentially. He said, "It allowed me to do some things that I'd been working at doing, but never really achieved. I'm a very technical guy, but I had a personal goal of wanting to work more intuitively. I wanted to let it come from the heart, not my head. I was able to do that in a way from day one through the end of production." So again, I think for him, it's like being on a set where I can only imagine the freedom of like, and I don't think it's taken advantage of, but like the freedom of being like, he doesn't really know what he wants or doesn't have the language maybe. And so coming together to kind of ping pong and become one as a team, I think is really cool.
I love that.
Yeah. And he calls this film, he said this is this film is super important to him artistically in his career. So he goes on in many interviews to talk about how this was a really special film for him to do. And I think for someone that has a career that had, you know, working on music videos like fucking Madonna in her prime.
Like a Prayer is, in my opinion, one of the best early music videos
of
all time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's iconic.
Yeah. So to come from that, I'm sure, like, how cool and special. I think that's what makes this film so cool and so special for people like you, not me, unfortunately. I'll stop. We have production designer Alec Hammond. Most recently did Renfield, which I've not seen.
I haven't seen either, but I am curious too. Especially just like anything Nicholas Hoult touches that's comedic is just gold.
I was gonna say, like, I'm not. It's not that I don't love Nick Cage. I just don't think he's good at acting. I like
Cage,
him,
good or bad.
but Nicholas Hoult, man,
incredible.
Everything, all
everything.
Day.
Yeah.
Alec Hammond also did 2 of the films in the Divergent franchise.
Oh, interesting.
The last 2 ones. So I thought that was kind of like a weird, I don't know, very interesting career. He's got a lot of credits. So getting into starring, obviously we have Jake Gyllenhaal as Donnie Darko. Gotta be honest, forgot he was Donnie in Donnie Darko.
Who did you think was Donnie?
I forgot that Frank has a name. The bunny. I thought he was Donnie.
Okay. Yep.
It's been a minute. It's been like a decade since I've watched this film. So.
Oh my god, I love that. I thought you were gonna say Seth Rogen for a second. I was so excited.
Yeah. I wish.
Imagine Donnie Darko starring Seth Rogen as Donnie.
He would love that.
I would watch it. I would watch it. A modern day remake of Donnie Darko. Directed by Jane Schoenbrun.
Yeah.
Jane,
starring
call me
Seth
up.
Rogen. Oh my god, stop. We could do it.
Yeah.
So on Jake getting the script, he said he remembers, like, I don't know if he started reading it before and like paused, but he said he basically had to pull over the side of the road to like finish reading the script because he was so intrigued by it. Again, baby, 19 years old. He said, quote, the script was clearly influenced by classic directors, Ron Howard, Steven Spielberg, but with a strange psychosis. It beautifully captured the experience of moving into adulthood. The world felt so solid, becoming movable and liquid, which I love. He thought, this is what my adolescence felt like. And though I don't speak, I've never spoken to rabbits. So I love that he's the biggest dork in these interviews
so much.
But again, to your point, it really spoke to him in that way at that time.
Do you know how old he was at the time that he shot this?
He was 19.
You're 19. Okay,
yeah,
sorry, you just 19. Said that.
Yeah. Everyone was pretty much like around the age of
That helps a lot with a film like this, I think.
Sure. I think the youngest was Jenna Malone. I think she was 15.
Whoa, baby!
She's been on this a billion.
She came
times.
Out the gate just
powerhouse, so intelligent. I love her.
I can't believe she's 15. Oh my god!
Yeah,
wow.
I love her. I love her.
Mind blown. Especially since both of the leads in mine turned 28 on set. So
Justice Smith, man. Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to talk
about it. I have great
so
quotes from him too. We also have a first time reading the script quote from Justice. So
where are we?
Sorry, I completely threw you off.
With Jake Gyllenhaal getting cast, the producers remember like Jake coming into the audition, saying, and I had to look this up because I totally fucking forgot the name of this person. So he walked into the audition and they were like, it's like Holden Caulfield himself walked in. So Catcher in the Rye for those I don't know if you read that book.
Of course.
Yeah, we were all forced to, and it was great, to be fair. And director Richard Kelly was like, oh, this is fucking him. So immediately coming in. So again, he was already a teenager. So that had a lot to do with it. They also said that he was like going through an emo phase at this time. So he came in with like his spiked hair, like metal chain belt, a little bit of an attitude. So they were like, this is the little emo boy of our dreams.
Yeah.
But he was not the first up, as often is the case. Can you take a stab? This blew me away. Who was originally cast?
Yeah,
wow. Cast. And couldn't do it because of scheduling conflicts.
Oh my god.
They had like 3 films in 2002 come out, and they had a film in 2001 come out. So they had to...
For whatever reason, my brain cannot get past Johnny Depp.
Oh my god, that would have been a really good
one. I could
he wasn't
see
even on
that.
The list. Well,
I mean, like, he'd be a little old by that point. Like, he's not teenage age at that point, but...
That's funny.
Who was it?
Someone that was old. Jason Schwartzman.
I'm sorry, fucking what?
I literally gasped through the...
Yeah, I like just almost took my shoe off to throw
right at Warren's head. Warren, how dare you?
Oh my god.
Listen, very sleep deprived today. I feel like I'm getting pulled by the little tube.
A
little balloon condom that leads us all to where we're supposed to go next.
The last thing you see before you die is a little balloon condom.
A little pretty rainbow gay balloon condom.
Yeah, with a rabbit at the end.
Jason Schwartzman. Which, to be fair, he was like having a moment. And I think it would have been, again, wildly different film.
I hate this so... This, like, upsets me viscerally.
Yeah. Well, thank fuck. The universe was, like, absolutely
not. I love Jason Schwartzman, but, like, I associate him with Wes Anderson. Like, This
was a time he was doing... So 2002, Spun came out.
Okay. I could see why
he was kind of in a weird...
Him.
Yeah. He has, like, I think he would have been too energetic, though. Even still, when he downplays stuff, he's still...
He's not depressed enough. Or, like, in the right way. He's not depressed in the Donnie Darko way. Yeah. He's...
Depressed in a comedic way.
Yeah, depressed in a comedic... There's 2 different kinds of depression. Of manifestation of depression. And he's got the comedic manifestation.
I'm about to piss you off more with other people, though.
No, I'm so excited.
Talk about too old.
Oh, God.
So they said they basically went through, like, every teen, anyone in Hollywood.
Let me guess. Al Pacino.
Imagine Al Pacino not only wanted to be
Lestat,
he also wanted to be Donnie Darko. Somebody needs to fucking, we need to have, oh my god, we need to do like a shirt. Someone needs to design Al Pacino in like a bunch of horror movies.
Oh my god, yes. Al Pacino was horror leads. Yeah. I would buy the fuck out of that.
Too. Oh my god. I don't like this person personally, because I think they like, I forget what they've done, but I think politically they're like an awful person.
Great.
Vince Vaughn. He was like, I think 30
at the time. Yeah.
Also, he apparently turned it down because he thought he was too old.
Okay, good. Thank you, Vince Vaughn. You're right.
Vince Vaughn.
Oh my god.
What, those fucking 7-foot giant around the family? Like, I'm a teen, guys. I swear I'm not a cop.
But just like talking to the bunny.
Imagine what they would have had to cast for the bunny.
Oh my god.
Fucking what's his name from Alien?
Seth Rogen.
Yeah. His laugh. He just laughs. It just echoes. Oh my god.
I'm sorry.
Can you imagine?
Taking us so off the rails early into the episode.
I need this.
Yeah. It's the only way to talk about these films, honestly.
Otherwise we'll be crying.
Yeah.
The other one is, this will also piss you off.
Great.
Mark Wahlberg. But you know why his only ask was, and they were like, absolutely not. He wanted to play Donnie Darko with a lisp. And he was like, if I can't do a lisp, I'm out. I hate Mark Wahlberg.
I think you're the Antichrist.
He really had a vision. He had a vision, and he was holding to it. So for creative purposes.
Wow. We admire the dedication.
Do we? The other two, or at least the one, I don't know who the other one is. Lucas Black from Sling Blade. I'm not familiar with him. And who I think could have played depressed correctly, but I don't think visually would have like done it for me is Patrick Fugit from Almost Famous.
Oh,
Fugit,
okay, I can see that.
I don't know.
I can understand
He
that.
has the deadness inside of him.
Yeah, he's got the right kind of depression.
He takes on those roles where he like,
yeah,
sir.
Lucas Black is the dude from Tokyo Drift.
Lucas Black is the dude from Tokyo Drift.
Who?
The main one.
Oh my god, the Southern guy. Yeah. He's so bad at acting. Oh, no. I love him. He's in my favorite movie as a teen called Flash. It's about him and his horse, and he goes on an adventure as a teen, and I wanted to live that life, and I love him.
I love this so much.
But he looked, we joke that he's supposed to play like an 18-year-old in Tokyo Drift. Mm-hmm. The man looks 45.
Perfect.
So here we have fucking Vince Vaughn,
you know, he got stuck in
Mark
a time
Wahlberg,
warp.
and then a 40-year-old.
Perfect.
Yeah, so Johnny Depp should have been on the list.
That makes more sense to me, given...
Thank fuck.
Oh my God.
Jake.
Yeah,
Thank
truly.
you for your service.
This movie would not have worked without Jake Gyllenhaal.
And we wouldn't have gotten Maggie Gyllenhaal.
I was wondering, because that having their relationship does so much for the grounding of the movie.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of the dialogue, if any of it, is improv, but the go suck a fuck moment just feels so real.
Yeah. Yeah,
like
I don't know if it was improv or not, but so everyone knows Maggie Gyllenhaal. I feel like I don't need to. She's like in fucking everything.
Yeah,
she did a movie I haven't seen that I want to. The Secretary.
Oh,
I feel like that's gonna alter my brain chemistry.
Probably.
I'm not like ready yet for that moment in my life to change. I want it to. But...
If you want, I have my mentor's old Academy screener for it. If you want to borrow it.
Yes, I do. Oh my God, that might be the moment.
There you go.
I love her. She's also producing, writing, directing the new Frankenstein adaptation,
The Bride. I
and
can't.
Jake Gyllenhaal's in that too. Yeah, he
Do
doesn't
you
have a
know
credit. No, I looked on IMDb, nothing, and I'm like, oh,
I love this. I love this.
So I'm really excited for that. But basically, they were having a hard time like finding an actor to play siblings with Jake, and he was like, I know a girl. That's my sister. Also, some of the producers had seen, I forget what role she did prior. She drinks pee in it, and they made like a joke about how she drank pee. Really intriguing.
Oh my God.
Question mark. But Jake was like, I guess they had like they were having a big rivalry moment in their sibling relationship at the time
interesting.
too.
Did this help them like come back together?
I think well, here I have a quote from him from Jake Gyllenhaal. So Richard really liked the idea because he was like, "Oh, it's not going to be hard to create that chemistry."
Dynamic,
so he was like, "Yeah, absolutely." But Jake recalls saying, "We were going through a competitive phase, which fed into the dinner table scenes where she tells me you can go suck a fuck." So it might have been improv. I'm sure it was. I can see their. Yeah.
And how exactly does one suck a fuck? Like,
iconic.
That's gotta be
iconic.
It's gotta be.
That's their inside joke.
Yeah.
Director's like, great.
Perfect. Cut print.
Yeah. So Maggie, Jay kind of talks about how Maggie was the reason that he got into acting. And he was like, it must have been so fucking infuriating for her.
Yeah.
Because here she is now playing second to her brother that's the lead when she's had her acting career for a little bit before. So they were kind of going through this phase that I think allowed that volatile sibling relationship, which gotta say, that was like mine growing up. I was 6 years apart. My sister wanted honestly, until I turned like 18, my sister wanted nothing to do with me. Wow. So I feel this.
Well, and it's also, I think, part of why the ending is so powerful because her reaction, Maggie's reaction, is so real that
it's tough. Yeah. She's just incredible. Jenna Malone as Gretchen Ross. Again, she's in fucking everything. Saved, Hunger Games, Love Lies Bleeding, which I still have not seen.
Need to see.
Yeah, she was, again, 15 at the time. And a little fun fact about her, the scene where Donnie corrects when she says Professor Kenneth Monotov, they kept it in because she just couldn't get it right. So I think she like stumbles through it, and so he corrects her on how to say it, and that was real.
That's cute.
I know. Poor thing. We have Mary McDonnell as Rose Darko, the mom. She's in
so
Battlestar. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I said they need to remake the movie and it just needs to be the mom.
Yeah.
She was fucking everything to me in this. I don't remember her as much like my first watches. She's all I want. Like
it's like such a thankless role. And she is just perfect in every scene. Especially that final cigarette smoke. Like it's oh, you feel for her so intensely.
Yeah,
And like
she's incredible. She
her-
was a scene stealer for me,
yeah.
for sure. Everything she was in, I was just like waiting. I was chasing the high of the next time she was
Yeah.
on the screen.
her delivery of like, it feels fantastic when Donnie asks how it feels to have a wacko as a son is just, it makes me burst out sobbing every
Does
time.
it? Oh, I feel like she's in like
Every time.
I almost feel like in the best way she's like in her own movie.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I loved her.
She's
so,
incredible.
Yeah. She is in Scream 4.
Oh.
She's in Mike Flanagan's Follow the House to Usher. Battlestar Galactica, if you watch. And fun fact, she was so excited to be on the production of this film. The first day of shooting, she was driving, I think a little too fast. She got into a car accident.
Mary.
Yeah. She was like, I was just so excited that like couldn't focus.
That's so cute.
I know. I think it's really cute, especially because she's like older. You expect that maybe
Yeah.
from someone like younger. Like she was seasoned.
Yeah.
So but yeah, I love again the energy going into this film. We have James Duval as Frank, not Donnie Darko, which I only listed Doom Generation because we can't shut up about it.
That's the most. I mean, he's done like almost all of Greg Araki's early movies.
Yeah,
he's
so good.
He's so good.
I forgot that he was Frank.
Yeah,
I forgot Frank has a face.
Mm-hmm.
So
and I think the fact that in this movie, the way they're lit, the way they're costumed, he and Jake kind of look similar is very intentional.
Yeah, they do
would
look kind of
assume.
similar.
Yeah.
I know. I always thought it was Jake Gyllenhaal. In
Yeah,
the
yeah.
thing. So yeah, that makes so much sense. We have Patrick Swayze, who I forgot was in this.
What a brave role for Patrick Swayze to take.
Yeah, he brought his own clothes from the 80s to wear, so he dressed himself.
Oh my god.
He was like, it's chill. I got this. And who says no to Patrick Swayze at that point?
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Not a 25-year-old director.
Oh,
You'd be like, sure.
I have to say though, you know the scene where you see his house and there's the giant portrait of him?
Yeah.
My partner pointed out that the portrait looks more like David Bowie, and now I can't unsee it. It's
I might have to
so
look up a
funny.
little
Yeah.
Screen grab of
Put
that.
a screen grab here. Yeah.
Bing.
Continue.
Yeah. We're getting to Drew Barrymore. Again, she's a teacher in this.
And normally I love Drew Barrymore.
Yeah.
I have never had a problem with the Drew Barrymore performance except in this movie.
Well, she's so Drew Barrymore about her roles. She's not a good
doesn't-
actor.
She doesn't
She's
give
Drew
English
Barrymore.
teacher.
Yeah.
She doesn't
Well,
give English teacher.
Because at the time, she was only 25. So she's only like, or it's 24. She was like 5 years older than.
Yeah, and it
Jake
feels like
Gyllenhaal.
it.
So I think that has a lot to do with it. Is like she was not, but because it was produced through Flower Films, which, if you're not familiar, I don't think it exists anymore. But it was like any Drew Barrymore you saw in the 2000s.
I think it does.
Does it?
They're doing like, I think their
Do they do
most
TV
recent
now?
thing was a TV project with Hulu. I want to say. They did
Okay,
something.
that
I
makes
can't remember what,
sense.
but
Yeah. In the 2000s, though, it was like if you saw Drew Barrymore, it was her company doing it every single film. So I think because of that, she was like, I need a role. They probably did not have a role, and so they put her as a teacher.
And probably wrote extra for the teacher because of that. Because it feels very like a bloated part.
Yeah. That and the fact that I think they only had like a week to shoot with her. So I think they rushed through and probably shot her stuff like first. Because if they didn't do it through her, they weren't going to get the funding.
So they had to make sure they had that.
So that's why I
Got it.
think her performance is fine.
Is
She's not the one that like she's not who her scenes I'm like we could have cut those.
Yeah, absolutely.
They actually I don't even know the point of her.
I truly think
Star
that
power.
the main reason she's there is to deliver the cellar door line. I think that's the most important dialogue that she has, and everything else is just kind of
Yeah. Well,
and like there are other ways we could have gotten cellar door.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the cellar door.
It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, first time writer director, you're doing this thing, you don't have a budget.
You gotta do what you gotta do to get it made. I get it.
It was gonna go to Stars apparently if so it was gonna go straight to streaming if they didn't
Can't do
get
that.
the funding. So
You can't do that.
he did what he had to do.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I'm sure he was super stoked to have Drew Barrymore when she like went on to do Charlie's Angels, I think like right? Like
Something
that was like
around-
peak
Yeah,
her.
peak Drew. Peak Drew.
She did say, I do have a quote from her though. She did say to working on the project, quote, "You have so much trust in someone that when they write something so extraordinary as this script, and then speaking with him, the fact that he was able to articulate all the genius that resides inside of him, I was so excited." So I
Aw,
do love
that's
that
very sweet.
she cared about it. Some miscellaneous casts. Apparently, almost the entire cast of the show Freaks and Geeks auditioned.
Oh, I love
And I'm like,
and
how
only
cute.
Seth gets
And only
it.
Seth got it. It was his first film.
Oh.
So film debut, and his first line in a feature film was, "I like your boobs."
Yep. It's so perfect. And his character's named Seth, too.
Oh, is it really?
Yep.
I didn't even write down this
Mhm.
fucking. That's so funny.
Yep.
He is so baby.
And he's like, you can tell he like doesn't, he's like clearly nervous on screen
Oh, I'm
too.
sure.
And it's just so endearing given
Yeah, I love him.
who he is now. I
yeah.
do too.
Everyone needs to watch.
Oh God, what's his
Oh my
show?
God, what's the show called?
Is it The Studio?
The Studio.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
everyone needs to
yeah.
watch that. It is. I love him. I love him. I love
He's
his
a
brain. I
genius.
love him poking fun of Hollywood.
Mhm.
It is one of the funniest fucking shows, and also one of the most gorgeous TV shows. Yeah, I loved where he came from. I like boobs to where he is now. I think he also
Incredible.
might have said I like boobs in the
Yep,
studio. So
probably.
really full circle.
Okay, speaking of first lines, though, can we take a moment to appreciate the fact that the very first lines that a character delivers in this movie are "I'm voting for Dukakis" 4.5 minutes in?
Oh my god.
Like,
4.5
it's
minutes in.
incredible. Like, what a way to
That's
start your
so
first
funny.
film. You have
It
4.5
really-
minutes of silence, and then "I'm voting for
I didn't even
Dukakis."
realize there's that much silence in it.
Yeah.
I'm voting for Dukakis.
Yeah.
What a name.
Yeah. And Maggie Gyllenhaal gets the first line, too, which I love. And the movie ends with her, too. I like that it is bookended by the
Oh,
female
funny.
characters.
Yeah. I mean, this is such a, like, all the things that they do in this film, it feels like it shouldn't work, and it does.
Yeah. That is, like, there's a 1.5-minute long rant about the sexuality or lack thereof of Smurfette. It should not work.
And even all, like, the little fast-forwarding moments seem so, like, teen movie, like, campy, but it feels right.
Yeah, it hits. And I
Yeah.
think so much of it is because of the music, which,
I know.
put a pin in that.
Yeah.
But,
Oh, God.
yeah.
I don't talk about the music, because I figured...
Oh,
that's
I do.
whatever.
Don't worry.
Great. I want to talk about some other first actors we have in this. Their first films. We have Fran Kranz. Sorry, that's hard. He's Marty, the stoner from Cabin in the Woods.
Oh my God.
He's the little clown guy, and then you see him driving the car, and then you see him at the end.
At
He
the
does
very
have like a
end,
line.
Yeah.
He's uncredited. We have Ashley Tisdale of High School Musical Disney Channel fame.
Whoa.
She speaks. She has like a question at the assembly.
Oh my God.
Baby. And then we have Jolene Purdy, who is the friend or the girl that's obsessed with Donnie Darko. She's in White Lotus. She's in Orange is the New Black. She's in WandaVision, and she's done so many fucking things. But she's. It's funny because she looks the exact same and also not at all.
Is that Charita? That character?
Yes. Yeah. The one that's like
has the notebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's so good in this.
She's
too.
so good. And I love that she gets like that we get a moment of Charita's night during that final montage. It like means so much to me. Yeah.
She went on to do many things. And then I don't know if you noticed, but at the very end we get a special thank you credit to Christina Applegate.
Oh my God.
Because of the sex conversation with the therapist. Originally, and the reason she gets a thanks, is because the original fantasy was supposed to be about Alyssa Milano, which like what a time capsule.
Yeah, truly.
And so she did not give consent, and so they had to change it to Christina Applegate, who did give consent, which is why they give her a special thank you. And I think that's
really
funny.
cute.
Yeah.
Thanks, Christina.
Thank you. So getting into script and conception of this, there's many a source, but at its base, Richard Kelly talks about how he was really inspired by his experiences with sleep deprivation and vivid dreams, which
That
makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
We've said it multiple times. When I was in film school, I kept a dream diary, and that is where every single script came from.
It's where the good stuff
comes
from.
lives. Yeah. So at its core, that's where it comes from.
Love.
So for people like me, it makes a little bit more sense that it doesn't make sense, or there's a lot of things going on.
It's dream logic.
Yeah. And although not listed as a source, because Richard Kelly, I think in like a semi-recent interview said he had still not watched it, but there is a film and play, I think, made from it called Harvey from 1950, where a man who is thought to be insane, because he's friends with a giant rabbit that no one else, or a giant bunny, I should say, that no one else can see. So
Interesting.
very on the nose, but Richard's like, I have no idea.
That's so funny
Have
how
not
that
seen.
happens.
Some influences on him, though, and I love, is director Terry Gilliam, who Thailand, Monty Python, which I don't know if that'll be, if we've already played it at
We'll
the
have already
cinema.
played it,
Damn it.
yeah.
I love Terry Gilliam.
He's amazing.
Bless him. I feel like he doesn't get the love he deserves.
Yeah.
But he's very also like weird and dreamland kind of world.
Definitely makes sense that would be on the list for Richard Kelly.
And then Peter Weir, who did The Truman Show, Dead Poets Society, which I still have not seen Dead Poets Society.
I love Peter Weir. He's also the one who did Picnic at Hanging Rock, right?
Is
that on the list?
Oh,
love
I only
that.
do the ones I know.
That's fair.
I'm sorry.
It's I think that's Peter Weir.
Yeah.
Yes, it is Peter Weir. I sometimes get Peter Weir and Peter Jackson mixed up because they're both from Australia, New Zealand, and
Shame.
from I'm sorry, Australia.
Australia or New Zealand?
Peter Weir is from Australia. Peter Jackson is from New Zealand, if I'm remembering correctly. But
funny.
Yeah,
Peters. You're all
Peters.
the same. Sorry.
Antipode and Peters, you're all the same.
Richard Kelly also cited a film from 1951 called A Place in the Sun, specifically for visual inspiration. So
Interesting.
again, it was like last week I did my notes and I cannot remember what it looks like now, but if you want to go sleuth, there you go. We also we're getting into the rainbow blob condoms.
Yes. How do they do them?
I don't have how we did that.
Oh no.
I have how we got there though.
Fantastic.
Again, I had to pick I knew you were going to talk more than me.
Yeah.
So I kept it really teeny tiny.
It's my own goddamn fault.
I'm so sorry. But they were thought up while Richard Kelly was watching a football game. Which I do now, guys. Hey, John Madden used to like have the telestrator, which now they have a more. I feel like now the technology, it looks more like what it looked like in Donnie Darko, but basically it was like showing where the players were going to go when they did like replays. It was like they could go this way. So it was him like drawing. And Richard Kelly was like super fucking stoned watching this. And then he kind of had this idea of like, what if there's like something upstairs that was doing that for us that like led us into these paths that we don't know. So like, not religious per se, but he was like, what if there's like someone pulling the strings?
Okay, wait, put a pin in this story for when we get to my half, because there's like a Jane Schoenbrun kind of equivalent sort of story. Not equivalent, but like parallel.
I wonder if they knew about this.
Yeah, I'm so curious. Yeah.
But yeah, so I love that that's kind of where the inspiration for those came from. And then if you, in Donnie Darko, the first time we see those, there's actually a football game on in the background too. So I just kind of like love that little like, so like I said, first flowers. Oh my god, that's like the name of the fucking food at Milk with Bobby.
I know what that is. Menus are dancing before Al's eyes right now.
Flower Films. They were the one that kind of gave them this budget. Can you take a guess at how much money they threw at this project?
I used to know this because we watched it in a class in film school at one point. But I don't know if the number that's coming to my head is right. 4 million?
Oh, 4.5.
Oh, good. Oh,
good job.
Wow. Can't believe I remembered that.
Yeah. Great.
Fantastic.
Yeah, which feels right.
It does. Yeah. And like, I think he really utilized it extremely well, given that you have it. Are there miniatures in this? Is that how they did the
Yes.
Okay. Good miniature work.
The car.
The car is a miniature. I
so.
was wondering about the bedroom getting crushed by the jet engine. Because like,
I didn't look up the miniatures, but
if they actually crunched a bedroom, that's going to cost a lot. But
can you imagine?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, 4.5 feels right of what they got. He stretches.
He does. And yeah, I'm impressed.
Yeah, absolutely. I found out how much he made, which I always think is kind of cool.
Oh, yeah, you so rarely get to know that.
$9,000. Not much.
I feel like he should have made more than that.
Absolutely.
I feel like he should have made
at least a year's salary. Give him $24,000.
Especially given that he's writer and director. Like,
and like
yeah, that's 2 jobs, people.
creative.
Yeah.
That's like
This
like
world
this was just
exists
his.
because of Richard Kelly.
Yeah. So I was kind
Rude.
of like, oh, is that missing a zero?
Rude. Yeah.
It's not.
Jesus.
Like I said, they got that funding because of Drew Barrymore. She had to dip out in a week, so they basically, because of that schedule, they had to like rush everything up. So they had to like get their script in order, get everything cast. So like there was a lot of hustle and scrambling
I could imagine.
leading up to this. So I'm sure on top of being first time, he was also like, look, gotta do this, have no other option. The production took place over 28 days, which is the time frame that we're in the film as well.
Mine was 27.
Oh, funny. Oh my God.
Lots of similarities.
Weird. Richard grew up in Virginia, and so that's why we see he changed like where he grew up to Middlesex, Virginia. It obviously they shot in LA. It is. I'm like, I've never been to Virginia.
It does not look.
I don't
like
think
that.
it has palm trees.
Nope. Not the part of it I've seen.
Yeah, I'm like, just give it like a really fake. Like, don't even give it a place.
Yeah, just
I feel like it should have been placeless.
Yeah, agreed.
They should have taken out that shot.
Yeah.
I just think it's wild that they like make it a point to show where they are, and then they're like palm trees and like clearly Hollywood Hills.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
And then we hear that their flight is going to LA, and it's like, we know that's where you are.
Yeah. Just shut up about it. We
Tell
don't
us
need
that the flight is going to Virginia. I don't know.
Yeah.
That would make a lot more sense.
So much sense. I have some camera facts for you, and once again, I know one part of this. Well, I knew 2 parts of it because I did look into one thing. But again, it's word salad to me going out, but I kind of get the gist. So the DP, Stephen Poster.
This film has everything.
Stop. It's got bunnies. It's got condoms. It's got rainbow condoms. I can't do his voice right now. So it was shot on a Panaflex Millennium cameras paired with Primo anamorphic lenses. And then I definitely know this part. Then they use a Pro Mist filter, which makes sense of why it's so dreamy. And that is what we use. We use one of those Pro Mist filters to make us look dreamy and haunted over here. So that makes sense because I forgot kind of that look that it had to it. I didn't remember that. Going to watch it again.
It very much fits with it taking place in the 80s because I can't remember if I brought it up, but they use a ton of Pro Mist filters on Carrie. That's like, which is 77. So like that time period,
that makes
that
sense.
kind of decade from like the late 70s to the late 80s, you're going to see a lot of misty, dreamy stuff.
Yeah. So I have some quotes. I'm trying to figure out how like deep and nerdy I want to go into it.
Go deep, go nerdy.
Okay. So I have a quote from Steven saying when the film was made, film was often manipulated in like I think this is the name of the place, is their Deluxe Laboratory. I want to say it's a specific laboratory that's called Deluxe Laboratory, to do things like bleach bypass and different types of processes. He asked Richard at the time if he had thought about doing any of that, and something that Richard said was that, the movie has enough going on in itself, like that's not busied up. So they kind of had a lot of conversations about what that would look like. The film was always set to be filmed anamorphic, which I had to look up what that means. Basically, the screen is wide, so you can see a lot of shit in the frame. It's the easiest way I'm going to put it. And so production at the time was hesitant to do that because they were like, oh, it's going to cost more money. And so Steven was like, no, it's not. And then starts to like rattle off all this information, which he admits is a complete fucking lie.
It is going to cost more money.
So he made it all up. He's like, no, we like light this way and then do this. Because I think like it didn't allow, when you shoot anamorphic, I think you have to light more, I think.
That's
okay,
right.
I'm getting head shakes. You have to light more. So he like was like, no, if we do this and throw the lights here and here, we'll be fine. And he was like, that was all BS. He goes, I was right, but it was all BS.
That's amazing.
He did it to get their way, and I'm so happy they did, because I think each one of those frames is so juicy with a thing. And like, again, for $4.5 million, the way they like set deck that, it's whatever the fuck where they shot is incrable. But I just love that, fake it till you make it. I think he's proof. Even someone who had experience was like, it worked out though.
I love that he had Richard's back that much to just like make some shit up.
He's like, no, they'll believe me. I got you. Again, they're dynamic. can only imagine, and I don't have quotes from it, but I can only imagine Richard Kelly like looked up to him as a mentor in some sort of way. This is where, again, like the DP kind of talked about how this felt like a really important career milestone for him. Again, that's why I think he pushed so hard for things, and said it was just like such a big moment in his career and his personal artistic development. So again, I think because he had that freedom, he was like, I can kind of make this mine in a way that Richard can hopefully make it his. So we have a little bit about Frank's design.
I'm so glad, because this was, I think, the first time that it really registered for me that James Duval's character clearly designed the mask himself and like made it himself, and that's such a wonderful touch.
That mask, man,
it's so scary.
It's so good. So from even the earliest script, Frank was always going to be in a rabbit suit. And director Richard Kelly said that Frank was inspired by the 1978 animated film Watership Down, which he loved. You see play out in the director's cut, I believe, which we did not watch the director's cut. I asked Siena. Siena was like, don't.
Yeah. We don't talk about the director's cut.
From everything I've read in interviews and articles, I'm very happy that you told us not to, because it does not sound
It's
great.
not. It's so much worse. It's so much worse. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. So, but that's where you see that clip, so that makes sense. Richard was shown a bunch of sketches early on, and he said every time he saw something, it just looked like the literal Easter Bunny, and he was like, no, I really want something more disturbing, more animalistic. So they kind of went through a bunch of processes of drawing until he felt like they nailed it. Stephen Poster said once they kind of finally landed on what they would see in the film, he, quote, ended up sitting in a very strange place between classic horror movie mask and kids-made Halloween costume. That's where you get the DIY, and something you're just not quite sure of what it is. It's fucking perfect. So yeah, I think it's funny because I forget like that the rest of the suit was kind of just so Halloween costume, but then that mask stands out. So I remembered the suit being different for some reason. I thought there were bones, like rib cagey.
Probably because Donnie has the bones on his Halloween costume.
Oh, yeah. See, I mushed the movie into like 5 bits.
Yeah, he's wearing like a Phoebe Bridgers style skeleton suit. Yeah. Yeah.
I just started listening to them. Frank,
which obviously Phoebe Bridgers appears in my film in TV
Oh my
Glow.
God.
Yeah.
She does.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
We'll talk about it.
Getting used to what she looks like. What they look like. Frank was crafted from costume designer April Ferry, while sculptors Dale R. Brady and Rob Berman were responsible for the mask. Just want to give them a shout out.
Wow.
And Richard Kelly kind of recalls the day that they shot with Frank being on set, and kind of talks about how he was worried because he was like, this film's gonna live or die by this character. With the suit and how it affects people. So I have a quote from him on like the day they brought Frank on set to shoot. He said the first time everyone just got quiet on the set, and he recalls, quote, everyone was like, this is really intense. So I knew it was working. I felt a sense of relief. I could look around at the makeup artist and the production assistants and the second AD, and they were all just really freaked out about it. Stephen Poster, my cinematographer, came up to me and he was like, Rich, I wasn't sure about the rabbit, but now I get it.
Yeah. That's so validating.
Oh my God. I'm sure it's just like that moment of like, here we go.
Yeah.
The fact that no one saw it really until like that wasn't working on it. I don't know. I feel like I would have to run it by a bunch of crew to be like, how do you feel? I just want to know your reaction.
That's very brave.
I might not take it.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to know.
But I need to know. Yeah.
Just put him in the corner. So getting into the release, Donnie Darko premiered at Sundance in 2001.
Makes sense.
I didn't realize it was a Sundance film, but it makes sense.
As is TV Glow.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense for yours for sure. But again, we talked about how if it didn't get funding, it was going to go to Stars. It also, after Sundance, wasn't necessarily still going to go to theaters, and it was actually slated again to go straight to DVD. Wow. Do you want to know who saved it?
Who saved it?
Christopher fucking Nolan.
Oh, that's fascinating.
A producer on Memento brought Christopher Nolan to an advanced screening of Donnie Darko. And Christopher Nolan and his wife like loved it so much that what was it, Newmarket Films, which he was working for or working with, he kind of convinced them to give it a theatrical release.
Wow.
And it makes sense because he was working on Memento at the time, so I think like this very like tonally kind of depressing and weird movies. But of all people, Christopher Nolan, unfortunately, it was supposed to be released in September of 2001.
Oh no.
Which also, there was a plane crash. For those that you don't remember, never, what was it? Trixie and Katya have a thing. And she's like,
never remember.
Yeah, I feel like this happens with like a lot of the films I cover for some reason.
Yeah, your films have been like haunted by 9/11. Yeah.
Do you guys remember? So after all of this, they still like life.
Wow.
And so they had to pull back everything. They had already spent like $500,000 on marketing.
Oh God.
So they were like, fuck.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that it takes place all in the month of October is so important to the narrative, to the way it looks, to like the mood of the movie, that it just like it's so begging for an autumn release.
Yeah. That's the thing too. I'm gonna get on a little soapbox. The Stranger Things like final season got announced, and it's always like Stranger Things summer, right? They're releasing the first one. They're doing 3 parts. First one Thanksgiving, second Christmas, third New Year's.
That's
wrong.
I'm
like, that's wrong.
That's wrong. It's
I
incorrect.
said they should have either sped up production or put it out next fucking year.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't think it's gonna do well.
Seasons are important.
So important.
Timing of seasons and releases is important, which I will also get to because I saw the TV Glow was released in May, which I think was not right. Not correct.
Shame. Yeah. Well, again, we've talked about like how big of an impact. I mean, it makes or breaks.
Yeah,
the film.
It totally does.
And so it did not do great. I think it did not have a long run in theaters. I can't remember the amount, but it basically ran its course with whatever money they had left and the deals that they could get with people.
When was it actually released? Sorry. So it was supposed to come out in September and then it didn't.
I think it was a few months after it because it was still in 2001. But I think they just like threw it straight to DVD. And so I actually have a quote from James Duval, who plays Frank, about how he felt about the film being a flop. I know. It gets better. Good. So it's sad and it gets better. Because obviously it's like Donnie Darko.
Yeah.
We all know it. He goes, quote, "My heart broke after we played at Sundance and nobody wanted to pick the movie up. Christopher Nolan, who had done Memento at the time, is responsible for helping get distribution. It was in theaters for 3 weeks. We made no money, and the movie disappeared. 2 years later, I was walking through a store, and someone said, 'Frank,' and I turned around to look, and it was his security guard who just saw the movie.
Wow.
And what happened slowly over time is I just started to hear more and more about the movie, and then a couple of years later, it became a huge hit on DVD. So going from a complete failure to being more successful than I could imagine is a strange thing. So a lot of them had this feeling of like it kind of sat in this weird space for it sounded like 2 years. We kind of hit this lull. Richard Kelly also speaks to this, saying he thought the movie basically disappeared. He wasn't expecting anything from it after it kind of went to DVD until March or April of 2002. So this is a year later. He realized the movie could actually kind of connect with people. So he talks about how he was walking downtown in the East Village and he passed a pizza place and he saw a Donnie Darko poster in the window. And so he goes in there and he's like, "Hey, why do you have a poster of like my film?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, we're connected to a cinema, and so we're going to be playing it at midnight in like a couple of days at one of our screenings." And so they were like, "You should come back for it." And so he was like, "Okay, that's like weird and cool that like a year later people are playing this film of mine." He goes there and was like in awe of the reaction from audiences loving it so much. So he ended up staying there for like hours talking to people.
Oh,
I know. And he was he said that in that moment he knew that the movie was not done and that it had this longer life that could live on. And so I think like pretty soon after that there was a big UK release as well. And so it kind of got this international momentum too. So it kind of like all happened, and I feel like it
that.
came word of mouth at that point too. But that was the moment he was just kind of like stumbling by, and it's like, why?
Wow.
And same with James Duval. So I think they probably all had like a different moment of kind of like
recognizing.
Yeah,
the
I can't
impact.
imagine like just being like, okay, that was a flop, that's fine, and then like years later, people coming up to you and you're like, what's
That's so
happening?
powerful.
Like,
That's so
yeah,
cool.
yeah. Unfortunately, New
Oh, no.
Market, they approached Richard to do the director's cut, so that's where we got that from. I think they kind of saw the hype around it, and so the first edit of that ran 2 hours and 45 minutes. Which is wild. And I guess they re-edited it in just 9 days as well. So that's probably why
that'll do.
they didn't
that'll
sit with
do
it long enough. So
Mhm.
that's where we got that. Do you want to take a guess at what it grossed in the box office, knowing it didn't do too well? I mean, it's made so much money since then, but 3 weeks, basically.
Did it even hit $1 million?
It did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like
it made its money
1.5?
back.
Oh, it did. Wow.
I don't know if you can include marketing and all that stuff in it, but
But so like 5-ish then maybe?
7.5.
Oh, that's better than I was expecting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it didn't do horrible, which I think shows that like it had impact. Imagine if it would have had the marketing budget.
Yeah.
Imagine if
and the word of
9/11
mouth.
didn't happen. That bitch.
The real tragedy. No, I'm
Truly,
kidding, everybody.
though.
I'm kidding.
the actual tragedy. But you know what I mean? Like if all those things weren't against it, it probably would have done so fucking well.
Yeah.
3 weeks.
This is the kind of film
Good
that
luck.
needs like a drip, drip, drip kind of release where it comes out in a couple of theaters, builds word of mouth, a couple more theaters, build word of mouth.
It really needed to like kind of expand. So at least it made its money back. Again, I don't know how much. One of those things where I'm like, did it make 7? You know, like did it cost 4.5 with everything? I don't know. So the director's cut, I'm just going to speak to it really quickly. It does include a lot more science fiction origins, and the superhero mythology specifically, which I didn't realize.
We don't like to talk about that.
Oh my god, do we not? I didn't know. So yeah, apparently like Donnie Darko is literally a comic book superhero story, super villain story. I don't know. So even the nod with which I clocked this time because I did my notes first. When Jenna Malone's character and Jake Gyllenhaal, when she says Donnie Darko, that sounds like a superhero, and he says, "How do you know I'm not?" I didn't realize that was like the intent, and it was supposed to be factual. So Richard Kelly, just one quote from him, he says, in the director's cut, I wanted to get my intent of the interpretation that this was a superhero myth in a lot of ways about a guy who had to realign a tangent universe and sort of close his hole in space and time. So it makes more sense for my brain because there's so many things going on. I don't think I'll ever watch the director's cut.
You don't.
Nobody
need
likes
to.
it.
Yeah,
I have the multiple sources that I have just inherently do not like it.
It's bad.
Yeah.
Well,
I
because
get
it
where you're-
ruins the mystery of the movie, which to me is so much of its impact, is that it leaves things ambiguous. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. I'm good.
Yeah.
I know it's not 2 hours 45, but I'm good. And specifically for you with the interpretation, I wrote, unlike the director of It Follows, Richard Kelly is super open to interpretation and super open to people's experience, and he doesn't change his mind when people say things. So I have some quotes from him. He said, quote, I try to distance myself from all the different theories in a sense that people are allowed to think, listen to him, allowed to think whatever they want. And if they have an interpretation of the story that I disagree with or I think is wrong, it's not really my place to get in there and argue with anyone. Take note. This is specifically for you. And he goes on to say, I presented the film for what it is, and I've done a director's cut of it that's a bit longer and more detailed. I'm just grateful that people are talking about my work and that they are passionate about it. You only engage so much with fan theories before I think you end up going down a spiral of self-analysis that's probably not healthy. So I just
rabbit
love
hole.
Him.
If
Yeah,
you
a
will.
rabbit hole, if you will. A sparkly rainbow condom. The Arrow Theater in Santa Monica, California, does an annual tradition of playing Donnie Darko on Easter, which I think is really cute.
Wow.
And I didn't realize I've been to that theater before. It's a very cute theater. I saw Django Unchained there.
I love that.
Yeah, and
cool.
I forget what else, but I just didn't realize because it's also the theater location that they use in the film with Frank and Donnie. So yeah, I didn't realize I sat in those seats.
That's
you know?
so sick. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's a beautiful theater too.
California has some really cute
great
small
old
theaters.
Yeah.
So critics, I was actually surprised. I don't know. I think because of my feelings, I was surprised it was so high, and so it's 8 out of 10 on IMDb, 80% from critics, 80 from
Damn.
audiences on Rotten
Damn.
Tomatoes. Yeah, it was just.
I'm surprised by the audience score,
I'm surprised
actually.
they're matching.
Yeah.
Typically, again,
Yeah,
we kind of see
wildly
a big
divergent usually. Yeah.
And then
There's a lot more divergence on Jane Schoenbrun. I'll go ahead and tell
Oh
you
my
that
God,
right now.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Well, everyone who doesn't like it's wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm ending on one last quote, and I'm so sorry. It made me feel a little bit better about my like lack of reaction to a point. Again, I just think I really like him as a writer director. I like him as a creative, allowing to be like, I created this art. It is out there.
Now it's
That's
yours.
all I can do.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna end on one big quote, and I'm gonna shut up. So, he says, "quote I think it's a little overwhelming for people to watch it the first time, and that's okay. Thank you. That's the kind of experience I want to deliver for people. Is a really complicated story, a lot of layers, a lot of hidden clues spread throughout, and I want it to wash over the viewer and leave them a little dizzy. Which I gotta say, this has been one of those films that's hard for me to watch because there's so much going on, and especially because I've watched it in such like 10 years apart.
Yeah.
And he says, that's my motive as an artist, to put you on a roller coaster and to have you walk out of the theater a little disoriented. The idea that these movies are meant to stand the test of time and they're made to warrant multiple viewings. You should be able to come back to it and see new things. My intention is it needs to hold up over time. It needs to be worthy of a second and possibly third viewing. It's a risk you take because not everyone is appreciative of that kind of film. So
true.
I love him for that, and it made me feel better. Him, and then also Jake Gyllenhaal and Seth Rogen not knowing the movie was about, because boy, it's heavy.
Yeah.
In so many ways, and there's so many things going on that I don't think it doesn't work. It's just, again, I don't think if you don't have the connection from the start, it's just going to be a very fascinating film to watch. And again,
it's
I
not
think
going to hit you emotionally in that same way.
But it fires on all the cylinders it needs to, and I was happy to rewatch it to almost like validate my feelings about it, because
it makes sense. Yeah,
I'm like, damn. I was like, do I not like? And so rewatching it was just like I was able to kind of analyze for myself.
Yeah, what's kind of hitting, what's not.
So I'm happy.
Makes sense. Yeah,
I'm happy I got to watch it again. I can't say I'll watch it again.
That's totally fair.
But I don't know. Who knows though? One day, like in 10 years from now, maybe I just watch it every 10 years. See what's going on.
I think one of the things that it has in common with TV Glow is that they're both, because I know we had a debate when I first suggested this pairing about like, are these films both horror?
I forgot that was like one of the,
which is a really interesting question. And I put up a poll on my Instagram and I said, is Donnie Darko horror? Yes, no, or bunny?
What did people say? I forget.
It was an equal split between yes and bunny in the lead, with no in last place.
I know, because that was one of the things I had with TV Glow. And that's why I think these are interesting, because like we said, like they are about the horrors of life, though.
Yeah,
so like, even though this doesn't say it's explicitly horror, thriller, but I put that in the horror category. I'm sorry.
To me, both of these are films about the horror of running out of time, or feeling like you're running out of time.
Yeah, I think these are horror.
And I think there's also a particular kind of teenage angst of like the first time you recognize or like are really able to internalize on a gut level the sense of like the scale of the universe is so big and I am so fucking tiny in it, and we have no idea what's out there, and it might be just this scream into the void. That like first confrontation with that, I think, is so much of what this movie, why I love it so much, is because it really captures that feeling to me. And I find myself really drawn towards films that, more than articulating an argument or even a question, are about conveying a feeling, a very specific feeling. And both of these, to me, do a really good job of capturing specific feelings that I can't think of another film that quite does. And I'm not saying they're the same feeling either, just they're both very different feelings, I would say. But
again, just because I don't feel it doesn't mean I don't see that and see that for other people. Again, that's why I get so frustrated with myself about it, because I'm like, I see it, and I do think it achieves that.
I wonder if you'll like this. It was my partner's first time seeing it, and she immediately afterwards was like, pitched an interpretation that I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, actually,
that I wanted to throw your way because you might like it. She was
Help
like,
me
I
out.
think that all of this movie takes place in like the last few seconds of Donnie's consciousness as he's dying, and like that it's the entire time loop is all playing out as his consciousness is kind of fizzling out. I think if you look at it through that lens, it may. That might be like a little road in. I love that.
Yeah, it was. I would try not to look at too many other people's interpretations before. I want to now, but I didn't want it to like impact. But I love. Is there a Jared Leto movie that does that too? There's a movie. Spoiler alert! Don't know what the movie is.
I think Dana was talking about Mr. Nobody.
Yes, Mr. Nobody.
Yes, which I haven't seen, but that was the one that she brought up.
And I love. So I love that. Thank you, actually. Thanks, Dana. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Dana.
Looking out.
Yeah, and I also, in the spirit of Jane Schoenbrun, who we're going to talk a lot about, Jane talks a lot about queering media, like bringing a queer lens to media that is not necessarily queer in itself. And I want to put out there, in the spirit of Greg Araki, who kind of haunts both of these movies, since we have James Duvall. And then I told you, one of the coolest sources I've ever found for my section was an interview where Jane Schoenbrun is being interviewed by Greg Araki, director of the Doom Generation.
Really, the universe was just like, here you go, Siena.
Truly,
this is for your birthday.
This
is your gift.
Cherry on top. But I think there is a way to view this film
Donnie or Donnie Darko?
Yes, Donnie Darko.
Okay, yeah.
I think there is a way to view Donnie Darko as a queer story if you look at the presence of James Duvall as this figure who has been kind of the point at which the straight and queer worlds coalesce or coincide in Greg Araki movies, and particularly as kind of like the male ingenue who gets led into a queer world in Greg Araki movies, for him to be the one who's on the other side of the mirror to Jake Gyllenhaal as he's trying to break through this thing, this kind of like fog on the world. I think there's something very queer about that, and a way to view it as kind of a story about coming to terms with one's own queerness, even though I know that's not what the director's intent was. It's still,
to his point, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. And I think that's a lot of, again, something Jane talks about. That's so much of, I think, why it connects with a lot of queer people, because there's a lot of queer people who love this movie.
Yeah, I didn't really know that too. You threw it out, but again, I almost feel like I should have watched I Saw the TV Globe first and then watched Donnie Darko.
Very
I feel like it
different
was
experience.
Yeah, I feel like there was a different way to enter where I probably could have dove down that. I just wanted to kind of leave I'm interested to read about Donnie Darko in that light more, I think.
And I'm sure there are a ton of people who've written like theses on that.
For sure.
But
this
just
film,
just to throw it out there, I think there's a way to view it all as very gay.
I might have to watch it again just through those two different lenses and see how they impact my viewing experience. I'm not doing it for a while.
Yeah, give it another 10 years.
Not 10 years. I think I could do it sooner than that with those two things in mind. I really like the idea of it's like the last few seconds before, because I love shit like that.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting.
Well, and my partner pointed out, like, he's asleep when the plane crashes. So it's like you're coming from a dream into dying. And like the movie kind of has that sort of a feeling to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't know. It's one of those films I overthink.
Fair. Yeah.
And I after doing my notes, I realized I probably could not overthink it and be okay.
Again, it's you're in good company there. The director thought it too.
I know. Yeah, love. So
yeah.
Oh my gosh, we're
first
both sweating.
Big sad gay horror special.
Big sad gay.
Yeah, big sad gay. Let's take a break and get back to some more big sad gay.
Yay!
Yay! Gay! We'll be right back. And we're back into the Pink Opaque. How are we doing?
I just smelled my armpit. I didn't know if I smelled because it was so hot in here. Sorry.
It's very, very hot. And I was telling you, this is the only purple clothing I own. And so I today. Yeah, it's not going to last the whole episode. No, it is not. Yeah. No, it is not.
It's a sick jacket, though.
Thank you. I had to wear some purple in honor of our movie.
I know. I tried to find something. I realized I don't own anything colorful.
Shocking, knowing the two of us.
Anyone hasn't noticed.
Yeah.
I love it. Oh my God, here we go.
Here we go.
So excited about hearing about, again, I Hate You with Peace and Love.
Very fair. My partner feels the same.
Oh my God.
I'll start out by saying I forced my trans partner to watch this movie with me, and then turned to her partway through it and was like, is it transphobic of me to force you to watch this
like,
movie?
You know what? How you doing?
Yeah. And she was like, like maybe a little bit, but it's like in a funny way. So, and you have my permission to say that on the podcast.
Pride Month.
So let me just say, I know this movie is not everybody's cup of tea. I'm actually going to start out with her review because I think it's a good place to like kind of lead in to the way this movie elicits polarizing reactions. She said, quote, "It's 2010's Tumblr German expressionism. I hated every moment of it. It's perfect." And then I asked for clarification. She was like, "I just hate the way it made me feel." And I was like, yeah, that's the goal.
I also hate the way it makes me feel.
Yep.
And I don't even have that connection to it. So, but it's so good.
It's so good.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
I have to sit in silence after that one a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta like move. I had to watch Love Island right after. I had to cleanse the palate with some straights.
We had like a 4-hour
straights.
Like debate about it after watching the movie, which was like amazing.
Yeah,
but,
it is one of those movies though. You gotta talk about it after with somebody, anybody.
Yeah.
Like,
Poor Al, you've been like the subject of me coming in and I feel like ranting about I saw the TV glow like every other day in the office.
I'm so happy though to find a film that does that though.
Yeah, and especially one that's so recent because they normally we talk about this on the podcast. Most of the stuff I really connect with is from like the 70s.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, this is also might be one of the newest.
This is the newest film we have ever covered. 2024, and I have kind of a film theory rant corner about that. But I want to hear. We talked a bit about it off camera, but I want to hear on camera your experience when you first watched it.
Oh yeah, so again, like I said, it was just I didn't know anything going in, but it was one of those things like the way it unfolds. I think just also one of the things I told you is I'm a huge Justice Smith like fan. I forget the name of the TV show. Is it Generation?
Yes,
I think it's called.
Yeah.
Which is like a grossly underrated TV show that I think has just 2 seasons. And it's very queer. Wow. It's like Euphoria, but like not the like they're like all like super pretty and like Hollywoody and like that's not my experience in life.
Same.
And so him in that too it's so gritty and real. And then I was really excited that he was in this, so that was like the reason I wanted to see it.
Interesting.
And so just his performance, I think the mystery of it all, the fact that I think in the way that you talk about Donnie Darko, I feel like I can feel imprinted in this one, but I mean, watch experience was just like I gagged over the cinematography, the lighting.
Stunning. Yeah, we've got some great cinematographer quotes for this one.
Yeah, and just yay, and like just the weirdness and the strange and the outsider, and I think that deep feeling of belonging and connection that he portrays is like it makes me want to sob.
Yep.
I feel like I'm getting tears talking about it now. Yeah, it's so raw. And I like that. I like the pace. I don't know. I was so excited again when I saw it. I just remember like telling you about it.
Yeah.
And I was like, you have to watch this. And I was like, I hope you like it.
Just coming off production at that point, probably, because you'd seen it.
Watch things.
Yeah. I literally did. I did not watch a single movie from like August to February.
Imagine you watched this before you went to production. You absolutely would have had that in your mood board, I bet.
Yeah, I would have stolen too much from it. And I'm glad that I watched it at exactly the point I did, which my watch experience. I was in production from like mid-October to the start of November. Then we got interrupted by a snowstorm, and I went into like a weird period of like kind of doing post-production, but also fundraising to reschedule the days that the snowstorm made us miss, because we missed our last 2 days of shooting. This all gets back to I Saw the TV Glow. I promise we're getting there.
Yeah, you were in a weird limbo space there.
I was in this weird limbo space where like I was spending, like I did not have the time to watch any new media because I was too busy trying to like fundraise and get everything together to finish production while also trying to start on post-production, and I was just like going insane. Wasn't sure I was going to finish the movie, couldn't even think about what it would look like at the end, was just like in this totally weird limbo. Finished the last 2 days at the start of February, and the next weekend was like, okay, I'm dying.
Let me put on something really nice, light, and entertaining.
Yeah, no, I was like, I know that now before I start like proper post-production, like I am paralyzed by fear about it, mainly because I know so much of this movie, my movie, is going to depend on the soundtrack, and I don't know who I want to do the soundtrack yet. And I know that what I need to do right now is like just take a second, take a beat, and like look for some inspiration. And I don't know why, I don't usually like modern movies, but something in my gut is telling me the first movie I need to watch is I Saw the TV Glow.
So
I just got this like
funny.
weird hankering.
Yeah.
And I knew like not a ton about it.
It's so funny that you didn't know a lot about it either.
No, like I'd seen the A24 trailers, which I think mainly just sort of it very much just presented it as a straight horror film with a lot of purple lighting.
Yeah.
And I honestly wasn't even sure I was going to like it. I was just like, I feel like for some reason this movie has something I need to learn from.
So weird.
And so I put it on at like 1 o'clock in the morning, thinking that I was going to watch like the first half hour before bed, because a lot of the time I'll like space a movie out over a couple nights.
It's crazy you do that. Good for you.
And so started at 1 in the morning and can't turn it off, and like about it honestly probably only takes about 20 minutes before I'm sobbing. And then it's just kind of like starts with just like slow, just like tears dripping down my face, Justice Smith style. I'm just like hypnotized by the TV. And then by the time we get to the scene in the double lunch, when Maddie comes back and takes Owen to that bar and starts telling Owen the story about where they've been, and then it cuts away to the band performing, and Sloppy Jane comes on screen and starts performing Claw Machine, I just like let out this giant sob, and I was like, oh fuck, that's who needs to do my soundtrack. I'm gonna tear up talking about this. And you know, stayed up watching the movie, fell asleep thinking about the music, woke up thinking about the music. And it was like I'd gotten this like infection where like it's been like the only thing I could think about for
just
the past.
Through your DNA,
I've done 2 like 15-hour road trips in the past like a couple months, and both of them I listened to the full soundtrack start to finish like 3 times.
Oh my god, amazing!
I'm
like do that.
I have been so fucking immersed in this movie, and then like I didn't have time to watch any other movies before starting post-production. The only movie I saw between production and post-production for my film was I Saw the TV Glow. And I had this like reaction partially because Sloppy Jane, the artist who appears on screen in the double lunch, is somebody who I had been listening to for the past 3 years of writing the script for RD. But I'd never like connected the dots that this was somebody whose work is like really.
That's funny, I forgot you said that.
I love her, and she's under Phoebe Bridgers' label actually, and so I think I'd kind of found her through that, and so I started very kind of in that I'm
getting into that kind of music really hard this
I
summer.
have some recommendations for you,
please.
but some big gay recommendations.
Yes, please.
Big sad gay recommendations.
I need it. Sad music.
But so like she makes music that very much like she uses a lot of like samples of like one of her songs ends with like people chanting Happy New Year. Like there's lots of like very kind of cinematic elements, but I'd never connected the dots that like, ooh, this person's work would work really well in a movie. And that scene was like my favorite part of this movie that just like immediately hit me harder than a recent release has hit me like in my living memory. And I just was immediately like the thought I could not stop going over and over again was like, that scene hit me so hard. Imagine what this person could do with a whole movie's worth of soundtrack space. And so then I spent a month trying to talk myself out of it.
I know, yeah, you brought it up
I was
once or twice.
very nervous that there would be no way for me to get in touch with her, which is like kind of silly. But so long story short, we're going to tell the story of how I got her in a second, because it's very similar to how Jane got their composer. So when I get to Jane's quote about the music for this, I'll share my story. But that's the big reveal that I've been hinting about for months is I finally just this week got the papers back. Haley Dahl from Sloppy Jane is composing the soundtrack for RD. And I owe it all to Jane Schoenbrun. So thanks, Jane.
So cool.
This movie like changed my life in so many ways.
It's like part of
it's
part of
part
you now.
of it's part of me now. It's part of my art now. And so
which is so cool.
It's both like exciting and terrifying to try to talk about it, because I'm like, it's a bit, how do I even start? Where do I go in?
For sure. There's so many. Yeah. I mean,
like,
again, the connection you have to it now is so deep.
Yeah.
But it's so exciting. I know I almost spoiled the beans last episode. Remember I looked at you
Yeah.
and, and I was like, oh fuck. We would have cut it out, to be fair.
Yeah, we would have made it work. But like,
I was like,
it has been so hard for me not to just like shout this from the rooftops, but like it's
gonna be out there now for your birthday.
It's gonna be out there now, and like I have
Siena's
been
gift to you all for their birthday.
It's Haley Dahl's gift to me. Let's be real. It's you've heard
excited.
A couple little bits that I've shared with you of what she's been working on.
It was
the little
really
teaser
cool.
I'll give is that the very first conversation we had, Haley like picks up the phone and literally within 2.5 minutes we're talking about the Fire Walk with Me soundtrack.
That was the first thing I wrote to you in all caps.
Yeah.
I was like, please tell me this is Twin Peaks.
Oh,
code.
yeah.
And you were like, yeah. And I was like, okay, because like my
big
God.
time. Yeah.
So it was, thanks for letting me get a little because oh my God, I'm so excited for you.
I'm like I am pinching myself every day about this. Like this is music makes so much of a difference to any movie, but particularly this is part of why I think these two make such a good pairing, is because I think their scores play similar roles. And I hope that the score in mine has a similar kind of impact, and that especially when you're telling a story that is unusually structured like both of these films are, and like RD is, so much of the sense of the narrative movement gets carried by the score, and so much of the tone gets carried by the score, and these are both very tone heavy movies. And so
we talk about it too, like I think we did it off mic, but we were talking about like how some people don't listen to film soundtracks,
which like,
and I think that's wild.
Y'all are missing out,
because I mean they like I sob over scores.
Yeah, as Ben Wyatt from Parks and Rec says, it's like your favorite director making you a mixtape.
Yeah. So yeah, I am huge into that. I'm so excited to.
So because of that, I will say my notes are very soundtrack heavy. I'm sure that's no surprise. But yeah, this one's going to be a very music oriented episode.
We haven't done that before. So I'm excited.
Yeah,
not that deep. So I
mean, there's not usually. I feel like these are about as close as you could get besides a movie like The Lure to like a horror musical. Like they almost have that kind of a feeling to them, the way that like the whole movie stops for these soundtrack moments. This more so than
sorry I didn't talk about the music
Donnie
at
Darko.
all on mine.
Again, we're going to talk about it a lot in here, because
Okay.
Jane Schoenbrun specifically references Donnie Darko as like the score that they were most inspired by.
And it's just, you're like, well.
Yeah, I've got no notes now.
Perfect.
So
I'm very excited
you did me a
to hear
favor.
about my film.
Fantastic.
Yay.
I'll start us off with one more tid, because I couldn't pick just one. So Buffy fans will note, are you a Buffy person?
Yeah.
Obviously, the Pink Opaque, the TV show, and I Saw the TV Glow, is inspired by a lot of things, but most obviously Buffy. The colors of the high school uniforms, or the like cheer uniforms in the high school in I Saw the TV Glow, are the same as the colors of the Buffy uniform. But here's something I didn't notice that IMDb pointed out to me.
Yeah.
That just, God damn it, Jane. The high school is called Void High School. So the initials are VHS.
Go home, Jane.
You're wrong.
Go take a lap.
I love that so much. Yeah, so womp womp.
Amazing.
I adore it. This film, much like Nope, has no taglines at all. I kind of think, kind of like Nope, the title is the tagline.
Yep. I love that.
Slash, I kind of think that Sloppy Jane's song Claw Machine kind of is the tagline because it's the one that starts with that lyric I saw at the TV Glow.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't want to put a tagline with such a good name of a film.
Yeah, no, that conveys the message.
Yeah.
I don't want it explained to me any more than that. And here's how Jane pitched it based on it having no tagline. They said, quote, I remember describing it to people early on as, I want to take a latex monster from Goosebumps or Are You Afraid of the Dark and frame it beautifully like in a Gregory Crewdson portrait. And boy, did they deliver.
Oh my God, I love that. Sold.
I'm so in love with this person's brain. Let's see. This movie, written and directed by Jane Schoenbrun. Jane uses they, them pronouns. This is a part of their Screen trilogy, along with their first feature, We're All Going to the World's Fair, and a upcoming novel called Public Access Afterworld that I demand we carry at Beasley as soon as it's released. It's got a publisher. I just don't know if it has a publication date yet. That was originally going to be a 3-series TV show. We'll talk a bit about that towards the end of the episode, but really looking forward to reading that. And right now, as we speak, they just finished their very last day on their third feature, Teenage Sex and Death at Camp Miasma.
That's them. Oh my God.
Yes.
We just fucking talked about this. Yeah.
Stars I'm losing it. I obviously follow Jane on Instagram, and they were posting just like little behind the scenes of like the fake blood and stuff, and I'm like, I can't wait. It stars Hannah Einbinder from Hacks and Gillian Anderson from The X-Files, and Jane has described it as, quote, Portrait of a Lady on Fire set in a Friday the 13th sequel. I'm like, oh my God, I need it right now.
Yeah, I'm really fucking excited about that one. I totally spaced. We were just talking about it last week too.
I think it's also for queer people who find I Saw the TV Glow like too painful. It sounds to me like this one might be a little bit more up your alley because they've talked about part of what it's about being like learning to enjoy sex as a queer person post coming out. So we love terrifying times. Perfect for a horror comedy. Full of fake blood and
we got all the things.
All of the things. They also directed Lucy Dacus's Night Shift video. So just another little gay shout out there. Lucy Dacus is the one who's in Boy Genius with Phoebe Bridgers. So another Phoebe Bridgers connection. Mm-hmm. The tallest one of the three.
I like that.
Yeah. Gorgeous voice. This film was produced by Emma Stone and her husband's production company, Fruit Tree, and they've actually been working in New Mexico quite a bit recently with both When You Finish Saving the World and The Curse, which both filmed here. My producer actually worked on both of those. Their company also produced A Real Pain, Poor Things, Problemista. They have a First Look TV deal at A24, which of course is who ends up distributing I Saw the TV Glow. So... this is kind of the...
A Real Pain was not good, though.
I haven't seen it.
The pain.
But so Justice Smith is Owen, obviously. We adore him. He's Books in The Get Down. He's Franklin in Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom and Dominion. Chester in Generation, and Simon in Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves. And because I feel like with a movie like this, it's important to talk about. Justice is queer, uses he, him pronouns. He and his boyfriend actually shot a Calvin Klein ad together in 2022 that you can go look up if you're curious about that, which I certainly was.
I'm definitely looking at that.
Just a pro tip.
I love him.
Yeah,
God,
he's
damn it.
Amazing.
Can I fix your mic?
Oh, what's my mic doing?
Warren moved it.
Oh.
I think, you had
that
it
better?
the right way. Yeah.
Okay, great.
You lean
Fantastic.
forward when you talk.
Oh.
We were right.
Yeah, you're right.
Shame.
You're right.
Sorry, y'all can listen to that. That's fine. Keep that in.
Thanks, Al.
You're welcome.
We have Jack Haven as Maddie. Jack is credited under another name because at the time this was released, they were not using the name Jack publicly. They were out to Jane, though. So that's, just kind of they were on their own timeline there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be referring to them as Jack and not by the name they're credited as throughout this. That feels very important for a film like this. Jack uses they, them pronouns. They were Casey on Atypical, Billy in Bill and Ted Face the Music. And they're also in an upcoming project, Queens of the Dead, directed by Tina fucking Romero.
Whoa.
And
yes!
And starring Katie O'Brien from Love Lies Bleeding.
Yes! I just looked up this news and I'm so fucking excited.
Yes!
Because I was going to say another Nepo. That, like, the horror Nepos are doing it the way it should be done.
Yes.
Yeah, Katie O'Brien.
Yeah.
That's a hot cast.
Put a pin in that project because it kind of comes back to the film theory rant corner that I'm going to give us later. But anyway, supporting cast, we have Lindsay Jordan as Tara in the Pink Opaque. Lindsay is the lead singer of the famously lesbian band Snail Mail. I guess technically it's singer-songwriter. I think she's the only one in that project, but anyway, she's Snail Mail, which is also on the soundtrack. We've got a Snail Mail song. And this is a good preview of the rest of Jane's casting process, which is kind of this fascinating, kind of bizarre who's who of their favorite musicians. Up next in that tradition, we get fucking Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit as Owen's dad, Frank. And it's incredible and terrifying. That's Fred Durst. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I knew what that man looked like.
We're gonna talk about the casting of Fred Durst in a second. But,
please let's at some point.
And he's like not somebody who like does a whole lot of acting. Like there are musicians who do a lot of acting work. He's played a bartender on House and the dad on I Saw the TV Glow, and that's basically it for Fred Durst appearing as characters other than Fred Durst.
I was gonna say because he's in the new that SNL horror film. What's his name? Was Fred Durst in that? I don't think I know men.
Fantastic.
Never mind.
Male face blindness.
There's like one of the Y2K.
Y2K.
But he plays himself.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Hilarious in it. But you're right.
Amazing. Yeah. He plays himself. Very rarely plays
someone else.
Not himself.
Why didn't recognize him?
We have Helena Howard as Isabel in the Pink Opaque. She was Madeline in Madeline's Madeline. Nora on The Wilds and Cleo in Shoplifters of the World. We have Ian Foreman as the young Owen, who's amazing. He's Isaiah on the TV version of Let the Right One In. We have Daniel Detweiler as Brenda, which amazing. She's in The Woman in the Yard. She's Bernice in The Piano Lesson. She's Mamie Till Mobley in Till. Miranda on Station 11. And she was in The Harder They Fall, which shot here. And all of the monsters, including Mr. Melancholy and the evil clown, are played by Emma Portner, who I was like, why is that name ringing a bell? There's like a weird bell going off in my head. And so I Googled, Emma Portner is Elliot Page's ex-wife. So just to make the movie a little bit gayer.
That's funny. I didn't know he was married.
The only married before coming out. Came out and they separated. And the only non-monster character that Emma plays is Maddie's ex-friend Amanda, who Maddie later says is a secret agent who came to make her life miserable, and she's the one who plays Mr. Melancholy. So fun little bit of foreshadowing there. We get a cameo from Amber Benson, who plays Tara on Buffy the Vampire Slayer as Johnny Link's mom, when he goes up and is like, you need to tell my dad that I've been lying. And of course, Tara, that's also why the character of the Pink Opaque is named Tara. And it's something that Jane said they did very intentionally because that moment of Tara's death was so heartbreaking to like queers everywhere. And they were like, I wanted to give us a little bit of a sense that like maybe somewhere out there in a different world, Tara is still alive and doing okay. Yeah.
I'm still not okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, if I make it through this episode without crying, it's going to be a fucking miracle. Great.
If you start crying, I'm going to cry.
The pressure. We have Michael C. Morona and Danny Tamborelli as neighbors 1 and 2, and they are Big Pete and Little Pete from The Adventures of Pete and Pete, which is another reference point for the Pink Opaque. Connor, so many different layers.
Yeah, Jesus.
Connor O'Malley is Dave. He's Patton in Friendship and was on I Think You Should Leave. And of course, performing on stage at the Double Lunch Diner, whose name is an homage to the Double R in Twin Peaks.
Yeah. funny.
We have Sloppy Jane
Yep.
featuring Phoebe Bridgers, who actually Phoebe Bridgers played bass for Sloppy Jane for a while.
Oh, funny.
And
Nice.
King Woman is the other artist that we see performing there, and they're
They're so
amazing.
good.
Psychic Wound,
Yeah,
so good.
That scene was like a turning point for me in the film.
Yeah.
Where I was like, I was
Yeah.
like in.
Yeah, that's
it. I was
that-
like, holy
mhm.
shit!
I like can't breathe during
Yeah.
that scene in the best way.
It's great.
Cinematographer is Eric Yue, who's done a lot of music video work with folks like Father John Misty and Lucy Dacus.
Oh,
He's also shooting Jane's next film project, Teenage Sex and Death at Camp
Yeah.
Miasma.
cool.
But he's pretty early into his feature film DPing career. One of the main things he was known for before this was the Sundance movie 1001. Note here as we move into background, Jane has mentioned preferring the term becoming to transitioning in at least one interview, but because most of the interviews that they give are to cis interviewers and or
Yeah.
publications, they often use transition in their quotes. So I'm kind of going by whatever Jane's using in a particular
Sure.
instance. Tid also, this is where you really see like Siena's fascination just going off the walls. They did a great New Yorker interview around
Yeah.
the release of I Saw the TV Glow, took the reporter back to their house, and the reporter describes Jane's house like this.
Oh God.
Their apartment includes, quote, a crude no trespassing sign on the wall, which announces in red markers, girls only, and beneath, in a smaller scrawl, and faggots. Quote, my friends made that for my birthday because we had a teen girl sleepover, but one of my friends is a faggot, they offered by way of explanation. Which I'm like,
That's
I just want to
amazing.
hang out in this person's living room.
Yeah, God.
And so to talk about the background of this film, we've got to talk about the background of Jane Schoenbrun. And now Siena is
Cool.
overheated, so
Yeah,
I'm going
yeah,
to take
God.
this off.
I know. Y'all, it's summertime.
It
It is
is.
warm in our office. It's not like the air conditioning.
Truly.
Our
And
neighbors turned it off on us. Rude.
so rude. They don't.
Straight men. That's what they do. Try and kill us gays. Pride Month?
Pride Month? While we're recording my big sad gay horror special.
They're trying to suffocate you, Sienna. Don't let them.
Help I'm being repressed. Okay, let's talk about the background of this film.
Yeah, I'm so fascinated.
So, Jane Schoenbrun. Jane went to Boston University for film, where they met and worked with the Safdie brothers, but they hated Boston University. And as they put it, quote, they're not training people to become art filmmakers, they're training people to end up in LA, which I relate a whole lot to. They did a whole lot of shorts producing, and they also did a lot of work kind of curating kind of compilations of short work from a lot of other filmmakers before they started doing their own work. And they also would
Interesting.
do a lot of stuff kind of, I think they would do some work cutting together archival footage, but they didn't like really like make a short live action
Okay.
film, which
Interesting.
is also something I relate to because I also was like, I'm going to make my first ultra low budget feature before doing a short because I'm just not interested in the format. And you very rarely hear that. So immediately got excited about that. If you're interested in some of their early work, it's a lot of stuff with titles like The Eye Slicer, which like we love.
Cool.
Their first two projects as director were called The School is Watching and A Self-Induced Hallucination, which I feel like tells us that Jane has been pondering some of these same themes for quite a while. Move ahead to 2019. Jane's made those first two titles that I mentioned, but has only written the script for We're All Going to the World's Fair, their first film. They then take shrooms. This is where I was saying we're getting to the Donnie Darko story.
The drugs.
They take shrooms. They have an epiphany that the script they just wrote is maybe about their own gender dysphoria, and that's when they have their egg crack moment. And so then they're like, they have multiple partners, and their kind of primary partners like, maybe you're trans?
Yeah.
And then they go and shoot the film before coming out to the cast and crew. So they shoot their debut feature for about $200,000.
Yeah.
I have actually seen people report it widely as $15K, which is actually what I shot my first feature for. But Jane, in the interview with Greg Araki, says that it was $100K for production and $100K for post. So,
got it. Okay.
So
nice.
putting the record straight comes straight from Jane Schoenbrun. The only straight thing they'll ever say. And so then COVID happens, and as they put it, they quote, disappear for 2 years and came out a girl. I love them. And so
Cocoon.
yeah, so they basically, they've written the script, they've had this kind of egg crack moment to themselves. They shoot the film. Anna Cobb, who's the lead actress of that film, does tarot readings for everybody on the set, and on the very last day, Jane finally lets Anna read their tarot cards because they haven't let her before.
Yeah, they're like, I don't
Yeah.
want you to read me.
Yeah, and
Please don't.
last day, they finally let Anna read them, and Anna's like, you need to embrace your feminine side. And Jane's like, how dare you?
Yeah, rude. This is why I didn't do this earlier.
And so then in kind of the time that they are, I believe it's while they are waiting to hear back from Sundance about We're All Going to the World's Fair, whether it's gotten in, they start HRT. And 3 months after starting HRT, they begin writing the script for I Saw the TV Glow.
Yeah.
And a couple quotes from them about kind of one I thought was really interesting in terms of why they shot their first feature for as low a budget as they did. They said, quote, I had watched so many filmmakers make a movie for $2 million or $5 million right out the gate, then get the movie taken away from them in the edit or watered down from the very beginning in various ways. I knew that the only way I would be able to build any kind of sustainable reputation long-term for making the kind of shit I think is cool and want to see is if the first one wasn't a compromise.
Yeah.
Which is so smart and so true. And like we see it even just talking about Donnie Darko. Like he felt so much like people breathing down his neck. And Jane, before making these films, had been working for Film Independent, which became the Gotham, which is just like it's a nonprofit that helps fund filmmakers. But so they'd been in like the arts nonprofit fundraising area, which is what I used to do too, watching this cycle just kind of crush filmmakers. So again, I feel a lot of kinship with this story of how they come to the decisions they make about their filmmaking.
Films that are so personal like that, like that, absolutely, like no way you can let that go.
Exactly.
If it's someone else's script, sure, you can probably like, but like not,
but when
not
it's this personal of a story,
no way.
You can't. Especially when you know that all the studio heads are cis. Like
you just can't.
You can't. You can't. They also, fun fact, only choose the name Jane the day that they're supposed to submit locked credits for the film to Sundance. They're just like staring at the credits and they're like, fuck.
Oh my god.
We're going with Jane, I guess.
Yeah.
World's Fair comes out in 2021 with support from executive producer David Lowery, the one who did A Ghost Story and The Green Knight, who had met Jane while Jane was working for the Gotham. So these kind of little tiny pieces building together to make this happen. And so it debuts at Sundance during the year that, ironically, Sundance was all online, which is kind of what the World's Fair is sort of all about. Emma Stone and her husband see it there, love it, and thus the TV Glow producers find the project. But we'll get back to that because first we've got to talk a little bit more about the writing. So Jane has just started HRT, working on the script, and I think it's important to get into the weeds of this timeline because one of the main criticisms that I've heard of the film from queer and trans folks of the project is that it's so dark it just kind of hurts to watch and doesn't feel like there's any like hope or relief in it, which is not how I feel, but I can understand why someone would feel that way. And to me, I think it's really significant that the film is born from this very early period that Jane describes as one of, quote, overwhelming calamity.
Oh god.
Particularly because they're 35 at the time they come out.
Oh, I was wondering their age. Oh my gosh. Oh my god, that's how old I am now.
Yeah. And so imagine it's like this is a big part of what this film is about and what they were talking about processing and writing the script is the sense of like grieving the past 35 years of feeling like you've only been living half a life. And so that's where kind of the buried alive imagery from the ending comes in. I've got a quote from Jane. They describe kind of the genre version of the experience of coming out as, quote, literally burying yourself alive. You need to feel that level of powerlessness and suffocation. They elsewhere describe it as a period where you're, quote, you're sort of dealing with a lot of the bad without much of the good yet, and the sort of immediate aftermath of blowing up your entire sense of reality and existence. And that's the place this film comes from.
Oh, man.
But it still very much leaves me with this feeling that something better is coming. And I know not everybody feels that way. We'll talk about the ending. We'll get to it. But
that's your entry point.
Yeah.
Like your connection to it. So that's not wrong.
And so, so moving into kind of themes, approach, and history, it's very important to Jane, and this is something that I've seen, again, people have very polarized reactions to, that the way the film is about transness remains purely metaphorical rather than explicit, that there's no point where the characters are like, hey, maybe you're trans. Which, like, that's particularly a way that Jane has cited of trying to push back against cis films about trans people, like Boys Don't Cry, Dallas Buyers Club, The Danish Girl, where everything is always very literal and always leads towards the death of the trans character. And is also, this is something I got really excited to see them talking about that I thought you would enjoy as well, very much about reinforcing the gender binary. Because again, Jane is non-binary.
Yeah.
They use they, them pronouns.
Yeah.
And that's very important to their work.
Yeah.
Here's a quote from them. A lot of those narratives are either crafted by cis people or from cis people from a completely voyeuristic perspective, or they were crafted by trans people trying to make themselves legible in a way that cis people can make into a Hallmark card. I very proudly identify as non-binary. I don't think my relationship to gender is something that I completely understand. It's actually quite comforting to embrace incoherence.
Yeah.
Which, like, preach, Jane.
You know what's so funny? I didn't realize about this too. Like, I think why I have like a weird connection point with it, and it's funny, I was talking about style the other day too, and it wasn't even that, but like knowing myself, but I've never like come out ever had that experience.
Interesting.
It's just kind of been this weird kind of gradual thing. Like, I've accepted it, I embrace it, but
it's
like
becoming.
it was never like a conversation that I ever had with anyone in that way. It always just kind of like was reality, if that makes sense. So in a way, like, I love, and that's why I like this film so much, is because it doesn't make I'm happy some people don't connect to this, if that makes sense. Like, 'cause I'm like, it's not for you.
Yeah.
I
honestly think it's an extremely non-binary film.
Yeah.
I think
even with the color palettes and the shifting, I notice when characters go from one color and then they're next to another and then back, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, because they're living in this.
I think that's why so much of it is purple too. Is it's that in between the poles of red and blue.
Yeah. So I never. It was like this moment I realized that's probably why I connect, because I never had those moments.
Interesting.
Which is a privileged thing to say, but
it's also, I think it's also a common experience when you have some degree of disconnection from your biological family in terms of the way you're living your out queer life. There's less of a need to come out if you're not talking to the people who were around you expecting you to be straight, right?
I've been thinking about that a lot with this film.
So it's, which is also something Jane talks about. They're semi-estranged from their family. They, I think, have just started talking to their mom again, do not talk to their dad. And that's like clearly a big part of the where this film is coming from too.
Sorry, I just wanted to take a point, because
I love that
moment.
And they go on to say, quote, TV Glow is about something I think a lot of trans people understand: the tension between the space you exist within, which feels like home, and the simultaneous terror and liberation of understanding that that space might not be able to hold you in your true form. Which, like, and I think that's so much of why this film, why I love this film so much, is like it exists in this space that is able to hold both the recognition that you cannot live a full life in the closet, and also that there, that space is a space of necessity for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
And kind of the only thing that helps a lot of us stay alive to get to the point where we can live a more free life. And there's just this kind of this empathy towards that I feel from this film in a way that sometimes I don't get from other queer media. However, the script initially was going to have a very different format, and I find this so fascinating. Jane was thinking about structuring it as like a 2-hour Nick at Night block with commercials, so that by the ending, you would kind of, according to this Vanity Fair interview, quote, by the final frames, the audience would realize that the footage was being filtered through haunted childhood memories.
Dude,
which, like,
fucked so hard too.
So fascinated by that idea.
Another.
Yes, please. We're gonna get to that. There's potential for a sequel. Oh
my gosh,
we'll get there. Meanwhile, back at the Sundance, Emma Stone and her husband Dave are fallen in love with We're All Going to the World's Fair. They get their hands on the script for TV Glow, and they immediately want to produce it.
That's awesome.
They shop it to 6 different financiers and production companies, and y'all, this project gets an offer from every single one.
Really?
In 2021, when the industry was like collapsed.
I mean, Emma Stone's kind of like Hollywood's darling, to
Yeah,
be fair. So
true.
I wonder if it was anyone else, but
I think Emma Stone pulls a lot of weight.
she seems passionate about things that she does. So wow, that's amazing to hear.
And so, after making their first feature for $200K,
Oh my god,
do you want to guess
I
what?
have literally no idea.
It's probably higher than you'd expect.
I'm afraid I'm gonna go over 15 million.
10.
10. Oh, I
You're
almost
right.
said 10
Yeah,
first. God,
I
went-
saw you about to.
Thank you. For those that were
I count
watching,
it. I count it.
As 15.
Yep.
Wow.
And that's
How
actually,
incredible.
that's kind of my number one criticism of the project, and it's not a criticism of Jane. I think that the budget put too much into production and not enough into marketing. Which we talk about all the time.
Yeah.
That's not on Jane. That's on A24.
Yeah.
We'll get into it later.
Yeah.
This shot from July to August 2022, 27 days total, in Essex and Monmouth counties, New Jersey. Jane's from Westchester County, New York, so nearby. And to be fair, this was in the midst of really heavy COVID restrictions, which would also
Yeah.
shoot the budget up. They're also in some cases working with a couple underage actors. That's going to shoot the budget up.
Sure.
And a quote from Jane on budget from actually their interview with Greg Araki. They said, quote, "I think the best compliment about the movie that I got from somebody during a test screening was a friend being like, 'Oh yeah, knowing you, that is what you'd spend about 10 million on.'" I'm like, yes. They've also, another one of these just like Jane Schoenbrun quotes that's stuck in my head that I don't remember which interview it's from now. They talked at one point about, they were like, "Yeah, I know sex is good, but have you ever tried like burning a TV on somebody else's lawn with somebody else's money?"
Oh my god, stop.
Like,
What a cool person.
I love
my
them.
God.
I love them so much.
Have you? Have you tried? We should. We should do that.
Better than sex. Cast and crew. Let's talk about casting Fred Durst. So,
The thing that we thought we would talk about.
yeah, this is where we're going to start.
Durst, amazing.
So Jane grew up listening to his music, but felt scared going to a concert of his as an out trans femme when they kind of, after coming out, and I think we're already thinking about casting him, went to one of his concerts just to kind of feel it out.
Yeah.
Then they get on a Zoom with him, and immediately within 5 minutes, they start hitting it off talking about Wim Wenders' Paris, Texas, which is just like adorable. They're talking about art films. We love.
Okay, I was like, I don't know what that is.
Jane describes his music as, quote, "a Rosetta Stone for understanding our current white male moment,"
God.
which, as they point out,
That's great.
is part of why casting him is so powerful as this just figure of like white cis patriarchy just looming from the opposite room saying almost nothing except, "Isn't that a show for girls?" That's like one of only 2 lines he has in the film, basically. Like
his energy is felt though.
Oh yeah. And the Pete and Buffy the Vampire Slayer cast overlaps are not just a fun little Easter egg. Jane specifically wanted to cast people from the programs that helped inspire the Pink Opaque.
Yeah.
The Pink Opaque itself gets its name from a Cocteau Twins album, because of course it does. Yeah,
That makes
love.
sense.
But the content and style draw from Pete and Pete, Twin Peaks. Apparently, Jane has a recurring dream about the ending of the OG series that was a major inspiration for the movie.
Pete and Pete?
About Twin Peaks.
Oh,
yeah.
Funny.
About the ending of the OG where Kyle MacLachlan like slams his face into the mirror and is laughing. Yeah. Are You Afraid of the Dark was another reference, and of course, above all, Buffy. And casting them, Jane was aiming to comment on things like aging, the way we relate to characters in our favorite comfort shows, and also this kind of feeling of being haunted by these familiar faces that like Pete and Pete especially. I think it's like you can almost not recognize them, seeing them now grown up, but if you grew up with them, there's
I gasped.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
I love
the
that.
first time.
Here's a quote from them on that idea. Quote, if I ripped off Twin Peaks: The Return in the movie, it would probably be in the casting of Pete and painting them all white like ghosts. For me, it was just all about the uncanny nature of aging. Seeing child actors as adults together, as almost these specters on the same suburban streets where they used to be kids on television, felt really ripe. As a little tid, before they cast Connor O'Malley as Dave, Jane was considering Jimmy Fallon for the part. Hilarious. Don't think it would have worked, but hilarious. We have our Justice Smith quote on his first time reading the script. Quote, I read it and I was like, I don't know what the fuck I just read. It was intense. Jane's films get under your skin, even if you understand them logically or not. The script was the same way, and I just felt it. Even though I didn't really understand a lot of what was going on, I was also just drawn to the character, especially because we track him over 20, 30 years, and I loved that as he gets older, he becomes less of himself. I think that it's more interesting to follow a character who is their own villain, their own antagonist, because I'm really interested in characters who are presented with a decision and decide wrong. I think that's so much more narratively interesting.
Yeah. That's great.
Right? I think that's part of why this film is so structurally different than like almost anything else that's being made right now. He also did a lot of work with Jane specifically on Owen's voice and said, which like, if you listen to his interviews, he sounds completely different than Owen. And he said, quote, because he's so detached from his body, because his body is not real, I wanted to make it feel like everything he said was getting stuck in his throat. Everything he said, he was trying to push it back down. So it created this almost congested vocal thing that me and Jane talked about before shooting, which is an idea he cites as actually inspired by Julianne Moore's performance in the movie Safe, which is a personal fave. Jack also has a great description of Jane's, thank you, Al, of Jane's dialogue and their experience of playing it. And Jack says, quote, Jane does this brilliant thing where the way these teenagers talk is very familiar because it feels like it's from teen soap shows, but it's slowed down and stretched out in a way that you're hypnotized. You're surrendering to the poetry of this type of dialogue that we've taken in our whole lives subconsciously. It reminds me of how Yorgos Lanthimos' actors talk about making movies with him. I saw World's Fair, so I knew the tempo we were living in. I approached it from understanding that it would need to feel strange and unsettling, which I think is so true. I think the rhythm of the dialogue in this movie is so unique and specific, and I think also a lot of where you see that this is really made by a music nerd.
Yeah, like, it's really poetic, for sure.
It's definitely someone who is thinking a lot in musical terms. And to prepare for this movie, Jack binge-watched all of Buffy, had never seen any of it, binge-watched all of it. Justice never saw any of it and has no plans to ever see it. So you've got the two sides of the coin there.
Good for Jack.
Now we get to our making of section, which I labeled almost entirely music. Oops.
That actually makes sense character-wise. That Jack would, because they're the one that goes
They're the one
off.
who has the encyclopedic knowledge. And it's perfect.
Sorry, just like
it's
as
perfect.
a casting note of that's perfect.
I did not know this. This film was shot on 35 mil.
I didn't know this either.
Right? Normally I can spot a film that's shot on film.
Wow.
I could not spot it on this one. And I talked to my partner about why. I was like, why am I not? There's a feel usually. And like it has the grain, but there was something about the color palette that was reading really digital to me. Which Dana has a theory. She thinks it's because they probably were using LED lights on set instead of tungstens, which have that warm undertone. And normally when you see things that are shot on 35 mil, in the past we're used to seeing 35 mil with tungsten lights. And so here you're getting 35 mil film, but shooting an image that uses modern LED lighting, which shows less of the color spectrum. Like a tungsten light has more kinds of light being output than like these reds are only showing us one part of the color spectrum. Whereas you put a gel over an old-fashioned light, for sure, it's giving you a different kind of red. And so I went into this like massive spiral about that.
Did you find anything on it?
I did. And so we'll talk a little bit about that. It's also, they shot all of the Pink Opaque footage on 35 mil too.
Wow.
And then transferred it to VHS and Betamax to show the different kinds of degradation across time and media. I am obsessed with this.
Shot that
on 35. Yeah, I would have expected that to be shot on.
Go a little cheaper there.
Yeah. I think this is why the budget is as high as it is.
Yeah, but I mean,
I think a
looks
lot
great.
of it just went to film. And on creating the specific look of the light, I have a quote from DP Eric. He
Yeah.
said, quote, "In my initial meeting with Jane, I said that I imagined the way it looks is like, quote, when you eat too much sugar and you get a stomach ache.
Ugh.
What I meant by that is that there's this feeling of nausea for how candy colored everything is." Um, we love.
Yeah.
They talk about Krzysztof Kieslowski's Blue, Three Colors Blue being a big influence, which is one of my favorite movies. I have it across from my bed, so I wake up looking at it every
funny.
day.
I'm not familiar with that one.
And the music. We finally arrive.
Yay.
Of course, this is a huge part of why I feel so hard for this movie. It's part of what's most important to Jane in the way they approached the project, and taking a leaf out of Donnie Darko's book, they included the importance of the soundtrack in their pitch, talking about wanting to make, quote, a great 90s mixtape of music that didn't exist yet, and saying that, quote, a lot of them are queer artists who make music in a lot of different genres, but like any good curatorial work, and I've done a lot of curatorial work, it can add up to something that's more than the sum of its parts. Among those artists, we get Carolyn Polachek, Florist, Drab Majesty. We get Yule covering a song from the Scott Pilgrim soundtrack, which is amazing.
Funny.
It's got
Yeah.
everything. And Jane actually commissioned 16 original songs for
Holy
the film
shit.
from these artists.
Wow.
But TV Glow doesn't just have a mixtape soundtrack. It has an original score, which was composed by Alex G., who kind of lives in a similar musical space and who worked with Jane on World's Fair too. And I saw that and I was like, how the fuck did Jane get a hold of Alex G. when they were doing World's Fair before anybody knew who Jane Schoenbrun was?
Right.
Because Alex G. is very well known.
Yeah.
I found the story. And it's the same way I got Sloppy Jane.
Really?
So they'd been listening to his music while writing the script, just like I was listening to Sloppy Jane writing the script. They rapped and then, quote, I wrote him a fan letter about all of that and why I felt there was this connection between him and what I was trying to do and what he'd done in his music so vividly.
That's exactly what you did.
It was like a dream come true. You get an immediate response from one of your rock star heroes and he wants to collaborate because he likes the film, and then pretty soon you're on the phone with him and then you're getting sent these little voice memos of demos.
That's
exactly what happened.
Like exactly
I read that and I was like
yeah.
crying a little bit.
Is
like
that
it's
wild though?
Yeah, well, because
That's
like
so
what
crazy.
I spent,
Why you just
I
gotta do
haven't
the
told
damn thing.
Haley this part actually. Sorry about this, Haley. I spent like a good month just trying to track down any weird art school connections we had in common, because
Yeah.
like they went to high school with some of the people that I went to college with. I tracked down every single one of them. Was like, are any of you still in touch with Haley? None of
Yeah.
them were. And so then I finally just sent a fucking cold email to their band's email address, just being like, hey, I know this is super out of the blue to be getting from a stranger. I know
Yeah.
you've never done a film score before. I have been listening to your music for the past several years writing this movie, and I just came away from watching, I saw the TV Glow, and I couldn't stop thinking,
Yeah.
what would you do with a full film's worth of sonic space? And she wrote me back less than 24 hours
That's so
later.
crazy. Isn't it wild? Like that's gonna happen. It's just gonna domino.
Yeah.
People just don't watch your film.
It's-
unless they're gonna be like, but it's like that's
It's wild though. Which like
Yeah.
just goes to show you, like, I don't know, send the email.
send the email.
The-
I mean, truly, what are you gonna get? Not a
the
response?
worst that can happen is you're where
Or-
you were to begin with.
Well, what was it? Jeffrey Riddick writing that letter, and then he
Yes.
got a flat out like "fuck you."
Yeah,
and he goes,
then wrote
"No,
back.
fuck you."
Yeah.
Here's my letter back,
And
here's my
makes
script
friends
back
with the head of
again.
the studio.
And then made Final Destination.
Yeah,
So
look at that.
Even if someone does turn you down,
You never know.
respectfully, don't
Say
harass
respectfully,
them.
fuck you.
But yeah, respectfully, fuck you, and believe in me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
so crazy. It's so crazy.
it's wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so just like getting
That's
to
so
see
cool.
getting
God,
to
that's
see that
wild.
just like made my
So
heart so
yeah,
happy.
did it make you
Yeah.
feel like
yeah.
real? Like
It's
that's
real. It's really happening.
Yeah,
Well, because
that's
like I've
so cool.
up until I got the papers, I kept thinking that like something was gonna fuck it up, something was gonna go wrong.
Scary
Not
moment.
because of Haley, just like because I was like, I'm not worthy. Like,
But
and so it's
not true.
yeah, and like
Not true.
look at that, and look how many other filmmakers have done the
Yeah.
same. Back to this film soundtrack though. So the prompt that Jane gives the artists is A, they send each of them a mix, like a special mix just for what they want their work to sound like.
Sure.
And B, ask them to write the song that they would play if they'd appeared on season 3 of Buffy.
Oh my God. That's so cool.
Right? Right?
I am so obsessed.
Isn't that great? And so Jane's talked a lot about kind of why the film's specific approach to music was so crucial in terms of time period, because it comes at the time of MTV ads for movie soundtracks, when that was like a place where you would see them advertised.
For sure.
And when people still listened to albums in a way that we don't really do to the same degree
know.
anymore. Like, we sometimes will, but it's not the primary mode of consumption anymore.
Yeah.
But above all, they were trying to channel Donnie Darko. Quote,
It's so funny.
I was thinking back to Donnie Darko and the ways that that movie reinvented or reintroduced so many great alt bangers from the 80s. And an especially cool quote on the Broken Social Scene song that Ewell covers. Quote, it's a very early version of this thing that now a lot of queer artists do through hyperpop that Alex G., the composer, did, like pitch modulation style, this sort of queering of voice and production. It's always stuck with me as this kind of low-key queer anthem. Mr. Melancholy's name is also music reference to the Smashing Pumpkins double CD Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness.
Stop. Yeah.
Obviously, the
There
look
you go.
of Mr. Melancholy is George Méliès
Yeah.
inspired Man in the Moon.
So
The little tid, the film showing at the theater where Owen works
Yeah.
is 2007's Transmorphers. Real subtle,
God,
Jane.
Stop. They're like, here you go.
Obsessed. They apparently shot the last scene of the movie from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. while Jane was wearing pajamas, and the DP kept having to step out to stop himself getting a migraine from all the colors.
Oh my God.
There originally were more long takes in the film, too, particularly the election night sequence at the beginning, but that got kind of chopped up for pacing purposes. You can see the full version on the bonus features of the Blu-ray that just got
cool.
released. But now we got to talk about that ending.
Yeah.
Very, very divisive, very painful, all the feelings.
It makes me so upset.
So many different ways to interpret it. I feel like for as many people as I've talked to about the film, every single one of them has had a different emotion surrounding the ending, or like a different takeaway from it, which I
Sure.
think is very impressive, just like from
Yeah.
an artistic level, to create something that is that richly open for interpretation. But I know I've talked to you before off air about the fact that it was originally going to end with like about 30 seconds more film,
Right.
where it was going to show, and they shot this too, Owen, after he runs back out apologizing to everybody, it was going to
Worst.
follow him for like about 30 more seconds out into the parking lot and into the light from the parking lot, which obviously
Yeah.
is much more hopeful in terms of like it's giving you the sense that he's moving towards something else.
Yeah.
What I didn't know before researching
no.
this is that the executives actually wanted it to end earlier, and Jane pushed back on that. Here's a quote from the New Yorker article. They said, quote, executives felt that the film should end on a shot of Owen grinning at himself in the mirror in the aftermath, a particularly charged image that Schoenbrun described blithely. This is part of it's quoting from the New Yorker article,
Okay.
part of it from Jane. That Schoenbrun described blithely as, quote, Jesus with a pussy carved in his chest. Love them. But they're incredible. But Schoenbrun held firm, convinced that a finish scrubbed of any ambiguity or ambivalence would ring false, as if Mike Nichols had cut The Graduate before Elaine and Ben's elation wavers. TV glow keeps going, and not in the direction one might expect. Schoenbrun knew that the reality of seeing oneself for the first time could be dark and strange, or end in yet more self-denial. They refused to treat it as a pure relief or revelation. Like, oh, in that moment change happens? They said, no, it's too Hollywood narrative shit.
I mean, yeah.
I so agree with that. I think ending any other place would have felt, to me at least, and I know other people feel very different for good reason, but it would have felt to me like a concession to cis audiences, and that's not what this film is about. Justice Smith feels similarly. I got a quote from him. He said, of course, he said, Jane and I actually think it's hopeful because it's more vague, because you see his expression in the mirror. He's very happy and he's moved by the light he sees, and there's no denying it. And so obviously he's apologetic to everybody, but at least he's closer to who he truly is. At least he's accepted now who he truly is because he's seen it. And like that to me is part of what hit me so hard about that ending is like, yeah, it's coming out is not linear, accepting yourself is not linear, being queer is not linear. And like I very much felt that kind of after I came out to myself, like just overwhelming guilt and shame and like that desire to apologize to everybody. And you don't see that on screen. And I understand that part of it is that like when queer artists get the chance to make art, a lot of us feel the desire to create narratives that provide hope.
Yeah.
But there's something that I find really inspiring and hopeful in artists being like, fuck it, that's not what the real world feels like
this
to
kind
me.
of sucks.
This kind of sucks. You kind of make it suck to be a queer person in this world. And like, let us make some art about it and like reckon with it and share that sometimes it fucking sucks. And like, to me, it leaves me with this extremely cathartic feeling from the movie where it's like, yeah, sometimes those first moments of whether it's an egg crack or a coming out to yourself, but that kind of like a moment of enormous shift in your understanding of who you are and how you relate to the world. So often that not only does not feel good, but comes with like a, oh, can I shove it back in? Can I do something else? Can I push it back?
Or even just like the looking at yourself and feeling comfortable with yourself in that moment. But the second
then
you have to go into public and tell
immediately
people,
apologizing, like, yeah, that's real.
It's so real.
It's so real. And to me, seeing that on screen made me feel seen in a way that I haven't felt seen by queer movies that end on a more like quote unquote traditionally hopeful note.
Because again, it's real and it's relatable and it's like an actual experience. Because I've gone through like name changes and like I mean over even 6 months, like I was like trying to figure out as I was coming to terms with using they them pronouns. Like I didn't know where to navigate. In the mirror, I was comfortable with myself, and at my bubble, I was comfortable. But having to send like people out to tell those to other people because I couldn't do it myself.
Yeah, I've
and
had
then
this.
I feel like I apologize. Oh my god, you're making me realize like
it's what we do all the time, and I think it's
also
like I think it's a very like femme experience of queerness too, where like so much of femmehood is centered around this like constant act of apologizing. And so like I know I did that all the time on set where like I had to. This was my first time making RD going by they them pronouns on set, and I like was terrified to correct people when she heard me, and a lot of the time I would have to like send somebody else to do it and like apologize or be like, I'm so sorry, could you use they them? And like
it's funny how that works.
And like even that is like to be honest, even using they them feels like a bit of a concession to me because I'd much rather people just like throw any and all pronouns at the wall. But like that's the only people who are good at doing that are queer people, and if it's a room full of cis people, I don't trust them to do that. So I'll just say, just give me they them. But like it's being queer is not all good feelings, and like coming out is not all good feelings, and like this process of becoming, as Jane puts it, is so full of overwhelming calamity. And like, yes, it is essential if we want to feel like we're living a life that is fully us, and also it's gonna fucking hurt. And you don't get to choose where and how and when. And there's gonna be a lot of apologizing for yourself along the way, probably because of the worlds
to yourself
we're
and
in.
others.
Exactly.
It's wild.
So that's my take on the ending. Talking about the release, this obviously premiered at last year's Sundance, got its theatrical release in May of 2024. A little note about how Jane handled their publicity tour that I love. A24 offered them first class tickets, and instead Jane asked them to take that same money and spread it out to fly them and a few of their close friends coach.
Oh,
I love that, so that they could bring like their like queer
system.
Posse with them to South by. Adorable.
That's really cute.
This film, however, only made $5 million back against a $10 million budget. And this goes to what I said about the budget, I think, being kind of top heavy, which again, not Jane's fault.
No.
Give queer people the money to make their projects, give them all the money. However, I do have a cynical take on this. And this is something that I've talked to other friends in the industry about. I have seen a lot of A24 specifically's forays into working with more marginalized directors where they kind of frontline the production budget, but not the marketing. The film then doesn't make the budget back, and it reads to me as an excuse for them to say, oh, well, look, investing in XYZ community doesn't sell.
Well, they, again, I forget what documentary I was watching, but they, studios decide if a film's going to be successful, and they decide with the marketing budget.
Exactly.
I am just now, I will die.
That's where
I live and die on that hill forever.
It's not about how good the film is. It's about how they decide to market it.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about this with the release of Opus earlier this year, which A24 has not worked with a lot of Black directors, and boy, did that one fly under the radar. And it didn't make its money back. Yeah. This is their first time, as far as I can remember, at least, that A24 has worked with a trans director, didn't make its money back. And it is not because this film is not making a significant impact on the audience that it was intended for. Clearly it's not the film, and it's not, audience is not coming out to see it. It's the marketing.
I'm distracted. I'm going to get up. There's a bug crawling towards your bag.
Oh my God. Rescue me.
I don't want to kill him.
Oh, hi, bug.
Go that way. Go that way.
That's fine. There we go. It's crawling towards the mirror now.
I didn't want you to open your bag and there's a bug in there. So sorry. I actually, when you're done with, I have a little side piece from a podcast I've been listening to kind of about that.
Interesting. Well, because I just keep thinking this company keeps on giving Ari Aster dozens of millions of dollars, and I'm seeing so much Eddington advertisement. Oh my God. I did not see that before I saw the TV Glow. I was the intended audience for it. I didn't see a trailer. Yeah.
I didn't even see a trailer. I think I was on their website and I saw a poster and I was like, what's this?
And I also think the trailer does a real disservice to the film in that it really, again, presents it as just a straightforward horror movie, which I think
that's what mine
exactly
going in experience
and
was.
That's
I was
not
very
what
confused.
It is. That's not what Jane Schoenbrun's trying to do.
By the time the band came around, I let go of we're just on a ride.
We're just along for the story. But if you mismarket a film as pure horror, you're going to end up getting the wrong audience in, which is going to be people who are just coming for scares, and then they're going to be disappointed that you didn't give it to them, and it's not the film's fault. Yeah. Which is why this film now only has 5.8 stars on IMDb.
Rude, yeah. Yeah. Total mismark. Absolutely.
Yep. So, going into this, the third entry in Jane's screen trilogy, like I said, was going to be a 3-season TV show. Right. It was going to be produced by A24. They were going to stick with Jane for that next project. Why did it get dropped? Who knows? Then it was going to be picked up by HBO. Then HBO decided that it was too expensive and they dropped it. And so instead, Jane's releasing it as a book, which is wonderful. I'm super excited to read it. Yeah. I've heard that, I think Jane said that they got more money from the book deal than they ever have from a movie, which good. Amazing. We love that. But let them make the TV series too.
I wonder if from the book will come the
that's
right
my
person.
Hope.
Yeah.
That's my hope. But it just
they're gonna have to show. Yeah.
I have to say it leaves me feeling a bit cynical about what the intentions behind marketing it that way were.
Oh, for sure.
Anyway, now holds an 84% from critics, 70% from audiences, which we know is high for a horror film on first release.
Yeah.
Again, I don't think it was marketed properly, but it also got one of, I think, the coolest negative reviews I have ever seen. Which I love bringing in a good negative review that kind of gives you a compliment.
Yeah.
And slid in there. Dylan Roth wrote in The Observer that the movie is, quote, clever, cool, and a slog, and says that, quote, almost everything I dislike about it is done on purpose and effectively. As a piece of art, I can't deny that it works. And then gives it 2 stars out of 4, which I'm like, that's not fair. If you're saying it's just not my cup of tea, but it's doing it successfully.
Yeah, that's not a 2-star movie. It's doing its job.
It's doing its job.
How does it fail?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Which I think is pretty much...
That's funny, though.
I think that's pretty much the tone of all the reviews. Whether you love it or hate it, you recognize that it's going after its goals successfully and skillfully. Yeah. But if you hate it, it's probably because you find it depressing, a slog, hard to watch. I find it very cathartic. Martin Scorsese loved it. Paul Schrader, who wrote Taxi Driver and directed First Reform, called Jane both hands down the most original voice in film in the last decade, but also confounding, which you can't hope for cooler praise than that. Yeah. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, wild.
Sight and Sound put it at number 11 on their best films of 2024.
Wow.
Got Gotham nominations, Independent Spirits, won a Fangoria Chainsaw. And Jane mentioned in an interview last year that they might be interested in doing a TV Glow sequel in a few years. And they said, quote, I do think there is something about this particular movie that needs a yang to its yin. I don't think it's something people will be expecting, but it will be something that's very much in the same world from the other side of the looking glass. And they note that it would need to have Jack and Justice back. And I'm like, please, this is one sequel that I can get behind.
Can
making.
we do like the commercial things too? Like I need to see that.
Yes.
I mean, I love the way this played out too. I think it was like perfectly balanced for me. But boy, if they do another one,
I want to see Maddie's side of the story, and I would love to see that kind of like a.
And it could be done that way.
It could.
It makes sense for their character.
It makes sense for Maddie. Yeah,
Jane,
give them the money. Give them the money, and give them better advertising money this time.
Yeah, get a good advertising deal for sure, a marketing deal.
And then the influence section, I just wrote me, LL. Film theory rant corner. Yeah, I've got to go back up to the top of my notes because I put it near the top, and then I was like, let's save it for the end. I've just labeled this gay digression. So 2 episodes ago, I talked about it follows 10 years before this movie, kind of ushering in a new wave of A24 elevated horror.
Right. The pin. We're taking out the pin.
Yes, taking out that pin, which, as we know, I have very mixed feelings about. I would like to propose that Jane Schoenbrun's I Saw the TV Glow ushers in the death of that era and the beginning of a new pushback, which is equally highbrow, but so queer. Look at the queer horror that we've already talked about just in the context of this episode, in terms of I Saw the TV Glow, in terms of Jane's first movie, Queens of the Dead, Love Lies Bleeding, like just from 2024 onward, we've started to see this thing happening where this horror is coming out that is not so cis, straight, white, that is, I think in some ways maybe a little bit more emotionally messy, but in the service of being more emotionally present, which to me is much more true to horror's roots, which is specifically, we talk about this so much, horror has so often been a space where traditionally oppressed voices get to shine and address systemic inequities, whereas whether you like their work or hate it, when we think about the filmmakers who have risen in this like A24 elevated horror wave, you know, we're thinking over the past decade in the English-speaking world, because there's more interesting stuff going on in places like France, but that's always the case. You've got Ari Aster, Robert Eggers, Zach Kreger, Ty West, Mike Flanagan, David Robert Mitchell, the Philippou brothers, Oz Perkins, all of them
What do you think we have in common?
Are straight white men. Every last goddamn one.
I was waiting for you to throw it. I was like, white man, white man, white man. Oh, there's a theme.
Yep. All straight white cis men.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, but I see it in the work that they're putting out, and the work that's getting praised and funded, and the way that that work is made, whether it's good or not. And some of those directors' work I love. Like, I thought Talk to Me was one of the scariest movies that I've seen in the past decade. But I think there is a distinct undertone in the elevated horror from the past decade of nostalgia for a past that is perceived as safer or at least shinier than the present. And I think that is this kind of the horror that we've gotten in the past decade, to put it in a little tiny, like, to put a bow on it, is horror that emanates from a fear of the other. And the only real exception I can point to in all of that is Jordan Peele. And as part of why, to me, so much of the rest of the work coming out leaves me feeling like Jordan Peele did it better, which was like my review for Barbarian was like, okay, fine, but Us was better. But part of why I Saw the TV Glow felt so impactful and powerful to me was that it felt like this glimmer of hope that something is shifting. Because here's a filmmaker who's inspired by so many of the same reference points that those filmmakers cite, like Gregory Crewdson, like David Lynch, who is drawing on that same kind of imagery and style and specific kind of care and like every frame's a painting, but is using that to tell stories that are transgressive and queer and trans and mixed And I need to see so much more of this because that to me is what horror is for.
Well, I don't want to say this, like, I don't know how to delicately put it, so I'm just going to put it.
Put it!
There's a weight to experience that isn't shiny and, like, their path is paved, right?
Yes.
And shiny
Yes.
gold Hollywood glitter, in a way that all these stories aren't. And to that, there is a more universal experience within that. Their experience and the rest of the world is not the same.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So I think, like, to your point, like, that's why. And it does feel like there's this slow pendulum swing back. As we know, it's going to go back and forth,
Of course. But, that's always how it goes. But we've been in this very kind of nostalgic, regressive space of horror, I think, for the past decade. And I Saw the TV Glow in particular felt to me like something that is drawing from the same aesthetic roots, but in the service of the exact opposite thing, which is not a fear of the other. It is a fear of living a life unfulfilled because you are being treated as the other.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is a much more, not necessarily universal, because I don't think, some cis people may really relate to this movie. But I think that is a much more widespread human experience, and the experiences that somebody who's had their path so paved is going to be able to tap into. And I think that's why a lot of those movies end up feeling really carefully crafted and cold to me. And part of why I loved this so much is that it's carefully crafted and very, like, messy and hot and emotional and gooey. I don't know.
This is gonna be a horrible metaphor. But isn't it again, I'm not doing great, but, like, I forget, don't people make the joke about, like, the funniest people are the ones with the most, like, fucked up past?
Exactly.
But, like, I feel like the most creative people are people who went through shit. I don't think we've actually said on here, I don't think you can make art that's so impactful on this level
unless you've been through it.
You've been through, because I just don't. Again, there's, like, a lived experience. There is a trying to reconcile, to cope, to connect. That if you don't have things that have happened to you in any sort of capacity, right? Whatever, the spectrum's wide, but that it's just. There is a coldness. There is a, like, dead behind the eyes where it's like, yeah, that's great, but that I do think, art like this resonates so hard. That's why I was, like, watching it a second time. I'm like, it's cathartic and hard because it is so real. And even from my connection point, which is, so different from your connection point, which is so different from, like, anyone who watches it. But that's what makes it resonate. And I think what Richard Kelly said, like, it stands the test of time. You can rewatch this over and over, and, like, I feel like watching this 20 years from now, like, I'm so curious of, like, how I'll see it and how it will impact me then.
This film is going to be so interesting to look back on historically.
Well, I'm waiting. I'm like, hey, if Donnie Darko took a couple years, I'm like, I Saw the TV Glow. I'm like, have hope for the audience to grow larger. Yeah, because right now it feels so. I feel like me and you're like the only one I know that's, like,
I know it. Well, and I also know, like, it's kind of gotten some pushback from some of the queer community, and I honestly, this is something that my partner and I ended up talking a lot about afterwards, is, like, I think so much of that is because we have so few queer directors making it right now that it puts pressure on people like Jane Schoenbrun to be, like, the voice of the trans community. And filmmakers like Ari Aster don't have to be the voice of anything. They get to just be themselves. And I think that's,
they're being held up to a wildly different, putting this, like, the voice of this community. And it's like, no, it's a voice of Benny and this community. This
and,
is
like,
their experience.
Yeah. Jane Schoenbrun is also just an artist trying to make art for art's sake.
And in the queer community, to be the voice of all is...
Nobody's ever going to do
that.
Nobody's ever going to do it in a way that makes the whole community feel good.
Yeah,
because it's impossible.
There's so many different paths and
because it is the studio system continuing to fetishize us and, like, pluck just one person from a community and try to turn them into the representative, and it's not.
I've been listening to Tracy and Katya's
Yes.
That's My Road Trip podcast. I like binge, and Katya's going off on Emil Perez, is that what it's called?
Oh yes.
And Katya's rage towards it is so valid, because again, like I heard music from it for the first time. I thought it was an SNL skit. I thought Katya was making
I thought
a
it was a joke. I legit thought it was a joke.
And then I was wondering how it swept the Oscars anyways. But again, it's Hollywood is being like, no, we're allies.
We're progressive.
Yeah, look at us.
Yeah,
And like,
look at us
that was a
supporting trans
shitstorm of a
stories.
movie.
And meanwhile, I Saw the TV Glow got no nominations, which is
so
insane.
Just like, they pick and choose because they had all So so many feelings. So many feelings.
Which, like, ultimately, that's not to say that anybody in the queer community, or particularly anybody in the trans community who, like, does not feel represented by this film is not completely entitled to feel that way or to not resonate with it. It's just to say, like, no one trans filmmaker is ever going to make the entire trans community feel seen in the same way that no anything filmmaker is ever going to make the entire anything community feel seen.
Yeah, but again, white men in Hollywood, white cis men in Hollywood
do not have that burden.
They don't, because that's also the experience we're always fed. Is like, this is the way to look at the world is through a white cis man's eyes. So of course we're like fucking trained,
right? We're taught
to like that
to
better.
view that as
the norm,
not only the norm, but as like what's like the absence of race, the absence of any of these things, and it's just another perspective.
It's a lie. Hollywood's
it's a lie.
You guys.
Hollywood's a lie. Big gay episode conclusion. Hollywood's a lie.
I'm so with you, and I'm so glad. I'm glad we got to pair these two together so that, you know, I hope it tips over the people that to watch I Saw TV Glow,
too. And again, even if you did not heed our warning, and if so, shame. If you listened to this before watching, I hope that this now makes you want to go watch.
Sorry, we spoiled it for Warren. So
true.
But it's the journey.
Yeah,
it really is you have to experience it. So even us saying all this stuff, it's you. I don't think you will know what you're getting into until you watch it. Truly. Yeah. So that's big sad gay birthday
bash. Super excited to sometime down the line be able to share some of Sloppy Jane's music for
Oh my god,
RD.
yeah, we should see. You could do a mini
preview. Be really cool.
Be sick.
But yeah, that's
oh my gosh, yay! Well,
that's what we got.
I'm happy I got to talk my Donnie Darko-ness out with you,
Yeah,
and
I'm
really happy we did I Saw the TV Glow, because it's great and it needs to be loved.
So incredible.
Oh my gosh. Our next
pairing is going to be a lot easier, I
Happy
think.
birthday to you. It's officially your birthday episode.
Yeah, look at that. By
Even
the time you're hearing this, I'll be almost 28.
Oh, you get applause. You're getting older.
Frightening. Exactly what these films are about. Actually, really dark birthday films now that I think about it.
Now that you think about it.
I mean, like, in terms of, like, getting older and birthdays. I hadn't made that connection
Death
before.
is right around the corner.
Yeah, there you go.
Live your truth now.
I've almost made it out of the 27 club. I'm so close.
You're so close.
So next episode.
Wildly different. We're shifting gears real hard into
hardcore horror. Well, I think especially just because, like, this, you know, these two are not.
Hate mine.
These are softcore horror.
This is kind of my payback to you. You're gonna hate my film. I know it.
Oh, I'm so excited.
I don't like gore in that way, and
not usually.
I think you're gonna be horrified.
Fantastic. So excited. I mean, I do usually like Aussie horror though. That's usually fun for me.
It's been a minute, so
it'll be interesting.
Do you want to do yours? You'll be going first. You want to
I will be going first. So I will be doing the original The Hills Have Eyes from 1977.
I've only seen the remake.
I've never seen the remake. I am terrified of the original.
I'm going to be terrified.
Yeah.
It freaks me out. The remake freaks me out.
It's real good.
And I don't know when mine was. 2005?
Yours is, 2005.
Fuck yeah.
Look at that. Nicely done.
Here's the thing.
I'm
between 2002, 2005, and 2007.
It's somewhere in there.
I live in there. Wolf Creek.
Yeah.
So we're doing Aussie, just brutal.
We were thinking summertime, like, sunshine horror was kind of
such a nice way to put how brutal these films are going to be watching. These are going to be depressing in a different way.
Truly, yeah. You're welcome.
There's a lot of
At least
gonna be
these aren't
sick to
like
our stomach.
Sadness horror in the same way that my two picks
just some real
just gross.
just gross.
Gross.
I'm excited. It'll be fun to shift wildly through the summer with our summer horror picks.
Indeed.
But,
yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God. Is that like it?
I think
that
that's
was
it.
I
yeah.
actually very much enjoyed that.
Oh, good.
I was actually expecting this to be way more depressing.
Fantastic.
It felt good.
Yeah. I tried to bring my enthusiasm for
I'm
this
glad.
sadness
It
as
got
much
me
as
out
I
of
possibly could.
My sleepy little sad hole.
We love a sleepy little sad hole.
I'm gonna go right back to it.
There's a really dirty joke in there that I'm not gonna make. Yeah. What else? Donnie Darko, if you're listening to this the day it comes out, you can see it on Wednesday and Thursday of this week at the theater.
Yeah, JeanCocteauCinema.com. Tickets are up. Also, Beastly Books, beastlyBooks.com. We're doing 10% off all our LGBTQIA books. So we got lots of goodies, lots of stacks.
Lots of good queer horror.
Yeah. Happy Pride to all you gay motherfuckers
Yeah,
out there.
have fun
or
this
not.
weekend.
I don't know.
Yeah. If you're an ally, I don't know. We'll talk to you next month.
We'll see you straights later. I think that's it. Thanks, Warren, for hanging out. Thanks, Trav, for hanging out. Thanks, Theo, for hanging out wherever you are.
Yeah.
Playing us out.
And thank you all for listening to Splice and Splatter, the film podcast presented by the Jean Cocteau Cinema in Santa Fe, New Mexico, where a classic horror
It's modern gore. And
Until next
then,
time,
we'll be right back.